Banana.
So a few people are stubbornly going, I'm not saying it, I'm not saying it. Right, so now I want everybody to stand up. Stand up, please. And for a few seconds, I want you to stand on one leg. Okay? Just for a few seconds. Is everyone doing that? No resisting. Everyone doing that? Yeah, okay, you can all sit down. Thank you very much.
Yeah. That's it, yeah.
Right. So, what is common law? Can everybody hear me? Yeah. What about guys in the cheap seats at the back? Yeah? Right. Cool. So, what is common law? Common law essentially is natural law, or depending on who you are, I call it the most high. The most high is law written down. Okay? It's a law that everybody knows. It's written on your heart. Okay? It's essentially the Ten Commandments, and it boils down to: don't cause harm, injury, or loss to people or their property. Don't lie or be fraudulent in your contracts, and don't threaten harm. That's it. That is common law. Thank you very much. I'll be here till 2. Right, no, that's common law. That's all it is. Okay, very simple. Right, but if you break these simple rules, that is what's known as a crime. That's very important that you get that a crime always involves an injured party. Somebody who's been injured by your actions. Okay? It's important to get it because in this day and age, the police and the government are trying to make everything a crime. But it's important to know that a crime always involves an injured party. Yeah? No injured party, no crime.
Excuse me, Dave, are you happy to ask questions while you're doing this, or do you rather wait until the end?
If you could wait to the end of the section, okay, I'll answer a couple of questions, but I'm going to try and pack in a lot of stuff.
Okay.
So if you can keep the questions to a minimum, yeah, that'd be great, okay? Right, so along with these very simple rules, right, there's a whole body of case law to sort of back up these simple rules, because sometimes there are all sorts of nuances between these little rules, right, that have to be sorted out. So there's a whole body of case law that's decisions made by juries over the centuries, okay, to figure out all the nuances. Okay. Now I say it's made by juries and not judges, because in a courtroom the judge hasn't got power. Okay, in a real courtroom, judges have no power, they're referees. Forget what it says at the bottom there, but who is, that's not right actually, who is the highest authority in this land?
We are.
The people, yes. The people are the highest authority in the land. Okay, and a jury represents the people. Okay, that's why they are the highest authority in that court. Okay, so this is how it works. So you've got the politician on the end of the plank over the cliff, and you've got the people on the other end. Okay, if we lose interest in that politician, he's going down. Yeah. Now on that end of that plank, you can put the Queen, you can put the whole of Parliament. Yeah. You can put the police, because all of those people get their authority from us. Yeah? We grant the Queen her authority to rule us. Yeah? We grant authority to the government to govern us. The police get their authority from us. Okay? You heard the phrase policing by consent? Have you heard the
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, so this is how it really works. We are the authority here, not all these people. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll realise that your position, your status in this world is a lot higher than you think it is. Okay? So here's a split. What we have in truth is what's lawful. Yeah? But laid over the top of it is something called the legal system. Okay? Legal and lawful are two different things altogether. Okay? So on the lawful side, we have common law, the simple rules that I explained to you. Okay? But on the legal side, we have statutes and acts, legislation created by government. okay? Common law is the law of the land. Legislation, statutes and acts, are actually the law of the sea. It came about because merchants would have to deal between, trade between different countries, okay? So they came up with a whole set of rules on how to trade. Yeah, it's all about contracts and agreements and stuff, okay? And what they did was they took that law of the sea and overlaid it over the top of the law of the land, okay? So now we interact with that and not the real common law, okay? So what's lawful is anything that doesn't cause harm, injury or loss. Which means that you can strip off naked and run down the high street and scream at the top of your lungs. That isn't against the law. Well, for some people it should be, but it isn't against the law because you're not harming anyone, okay? On the other side, you've got whatever the government permits you or licenses you to do. So one side is expansive. You can do anything you like as long as you don't harm anyone. And the other side is you can only do what we tell you you can do. Okay, I know which one I'd like to follow. Okay. So the lawful side pertains to sovereign beings, living men and women. We are all sovereign beings. Yeah. So the law of the land, the common law, applies to us. On the other side, legal system only applies to government and corporate employees, or more importantly, anybody who agrees to it. Okay? On this side, you have rights. You have natural, inalienable rights, rights that can't be taken away from you. Okay, but you can always give those rights away. Okay, and you'll find that they trick you into giving your rights away all the time. But on this side, you have government granted privileges, and they can absolutely be taken away from you if you're a naughty boy or girl. Okay? And common law was upheld by constables. Now, I guess some of you remember who the constables were. You know, the Dixon and Doc Green types who they would have a beat in your neighbourhood, and everyone would know this person, and that cop would know everyone in the community. Yeah, and they would be respected. People would come to them with their problems. Yeah, that was the type of policeman who, or constable, who would catch the kids scrumping in the neighbour's yard and give them a clip round the ear and say, you know, don't do that again or I'm going to tell your mum. Yeah? Instead, what we've got now are police officers who are policy enforcers, yeah? Enforcing government policies or statutes and acts. Okay? They're the type who would catch the kids in the neighbour's yard, who will body slam them to the ground, twist their arms up behind their back, and cart them down to the station and find something to charge them with. Okay, it's a totally different system. Yeah, in this case we had the police service. Now we've got the police force. Service, force. See the difference? Yeah. So statutes and acts are defined as a legislated rule of society given the force of law. Right there, that should tell you something. Yeah? It's not law, but it gets the force of law by the consent of the governed. Who's the governed? Who is the governed? Oh, I know it's late, you know. Come on.
Those who consent.
Exactly. Yeah. It gets the force of law by your consent. Okay. So here's the hierarchy. Above everything is the Creator, whoever you deem that to be. As I said, I call him the Most High. The Creator created us, okay? We are all at that level, the sovereign being level, okay? There are no sneaky Rothschilds or Rockefellers or Gates in between us and the Most High. Everyone is at that level, okay? Collectively, we created government. Government is below us. It is subservient to us. A created thing is less than the creator. Okay? government is supposed to work for us, even though they're acting as though they're our boss at the moment, yeah? The government, in turn, creates all sorts of fictional entities, things that only exist on paper. You know, citizen, driver, person, taxpayer, resident, voter, keeper, householder, tenant, occupier, resident, all these fictional entities that only exist on paper. Yeah? And each one of those entities comes along with a whole set of rules and regulations, taxes, fees, insurances, all sorts of things. Yeah? Now the trick is to get you to give up your natural status as a sovereign being above government and take on one of these personas. Yeah? And as soon as you do that, now all those rules and regulations, taxes, insurances, fees apply to you. Until you do that, government can't touch you because you are above government. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Right, so you're above. As soon as you agree to be one of these things, now you're under government. Okay? It's like, hello madam, are you the driver of this vehicle?
Yes.
Now, as soon as you said yes there, now you've given up your natural right to travel, yeah, which is a right that can't be taken away from you. You've just given it away to become something called a driver. Now all sorts of taxes, rules and regulations apply to you.
You're a traveller, not a driver.
Exactly, we can get to that later, yeah? But that's how it works, you get it? Yeah? Okay. So, if you agree or confess to being a government employee or fictional entity created by government, then all these statutes and acts are now law to you. Okay? There's also this thing called universal law. Yeah? It's whatever you put into this world is going to come back at you multiplied. Okay? So, if I was to punch Rich in the face right now, yeah, is that a crime?
Yeah.
Is that a crime?
Yeah.
Yes. So will universal law apply to me?
No.
Yes.
Yes, it will. Because if I punch you in the face, I've done it twice now. If I punch you in the face, yeah, later I'm going to trip up over a paving stone and bash my face in, or something like that, yeah, it's going to bounce back at me. Okay? They call it karma, but karma's supposedly over many lifetimes. I'm saying it happens much more direct than that. Okay? And you'll find that the people we're up against, they absolutely believe this. And they go to great lengths to make sure that doesn't happen to them. So let's imagine I walk into this room with a beautiful dolly bird, yeah? And I say, Rich, do you know anything about massage?
Yeah.
That bar earlier. So, do you know anything about massage?
I do not know.
Oh, see, I'm a masseur, and I point to the dolly bird. Yeah, I'm a masseur. Yeah, and what we do is we use our our hands and get onto your body, and we actually sort of put force on your muscles. Sometimes we have to do some sort of chopping movements, and sometimes we've got to get the knuckles in there and really pound that flesh to really get those tightness, those muscles out there. So you've heard about that?
I've heard about that, yeah.
Yeah, so we're offering a free service to the body, right? If we see tightness on your body, yeah, we'll give you a free on-the-spot massage. Okay? Would you like our free service?
Yes, please.
Fine. Yes? So what I did there, I literally described a process where I can lay my hands on him with force. He agreed to it, I punched him. Yeah? Because he agreed to it, it's no longer a crime. Because we had an agreement and I just held my part of the bargain. Yeah? It doesn't matter that he believes something else. Okay? This is one of the ways they trick you into agreeing to things without you knowing it. Okay? So, does all this stuff apply to you? Well, Tesco's has a policy that if you work for Tesco's, you're not allowed to walk into that shop with money in your pocket. Because if you're likely to work on a till, yeah, Tesco's won't know if the money's yours or theirs. So blanket rule, not allowed to walk into Tesco's with money in your pocket. Let's imagine you used to work for Tesco's, and you walk in there and the money's jingling in your pocket. A security guard stops you and says, hey, don't you work for Tesco's? And absent-mindedly you say, yeah. Well, now the security guard can grab you and apply whatever punishment goes along with that. Simply because you confessed. Doesn't matter that your confession was wrong. The fact that you confessed was enough. Okay? The system uses that. Any type of confession is enough for you to inadvertently agree to be bound by their legislation. Okay? So, if you confess to be an employee, well, that act of making yourself the same as one of these fictional entities, that act of making yourself the same as one of these is called joinder. Okay, it's you joining yourself to one of these entities on paper. Okay, so there's a word, identify. So if you identify yourself as, say, a driver, well, the word identify there isn't English. It looks like an English word, and you might think it means, to recognise or something, but this is actually a foreign language word, a word in legalese. Okay, and it means, identify means make the same as. So create joinder. So as soon as you identify yourself, you've now made yourself the same as one of their fictional entities. You got that? Yeah? So the government is always assuming that you are one of their employees or citizens. Yeah? So is there any evidence of you being a government employee? Is there any evidence that you are a government employee?
Yes.
Anyone know what that is? Actually, national insurance is a good one, yes, but mainly it's this. Your birth certificate. Yeah? This is what's known as prima facie evidence that you are one of their government employees. Yeah? And the point is, if you admit to being this thing called a person, yeah, this is what this document creates. It creates something called a person. And if you admit to being a person, now you've admitted you're one of their government employees. Okay? So, this birth certificate thing, well, let's step back a second. When you were born, right, your parents gave you a name, your given name, mine's Dave, yeah? You also, what automatically came along with it was a family name, yeah? Now, when I was growing up, nobody ever came up to me and said, hello, Dave Murphy, you coming down to the park, Dave Murphy? How are you today, Dave Murphy? No, you could just call me by my given name or a nickname, okay? It's only the government, what they did was they created a first name, not a given name, a first name in all capital letters, and not a family name, but a surname in all capital letters. We've been taught to believe that they're the same thing, yeah, but no. They created this first name and surname in all capital letters, and they jammed the two together to create something called a person. And a person is essentially a corporation, a business, okay? Because government can only deal with businesses. It can't deal with flesh and blood people because flesh and blood people are above government, okay? So, somewhere on this birth certificate, it says, warning, this certificate is not evidence of the identity of the person presenting it. It's not for identity, yeah? Somewhere else on this document are the words Crown copyright. It means that name isn't yours. It belongs to the government. That name in all capital letters. Yeah? It's not yours, it belongs to the government. And if you use it, you're breaking copyright law. Okay? So how this came about, okay? This came about during the Great Fire of London. Okay, during the Great Fire of London, at the same time, there was the Great Plague. Okay, so there were thousands of people dying left, right and centre. So while the flames are burning down London, Parliament sat, okay, and they enacted a law or a piece of legislation called the Cester KV Act of 1666. 1666. Interesting year. So, they enacted this legislation in French so the English wouldn't know what was in it. Okay? Now, in this act, it declared everybody dead, because they didn't know who's alive and who's dead. They said everyone's dead. So this legislation said, because everyone's dead, we're going to administer everyone's share of the country. So, let's imagine, just for argument's sake, the material wealth of this country is, say, 100 trillion pounds, okay? Your share of the country is 100 trillion divided by 67 million, which is still something in the billions, okay? That's your share of the country. The government now become the shareholder of everyone's share of the country, okay? Now, in this act, it provides you the ability, supposedly, to present yourself to the government before the age of 7 as alive. You present yourself as alive and you can claim back your share of the country. Okay? But I didn't tell you how to do that. And in any case, it was in French, so nobody even knew about it. Okay? But until you present yourself to the government and say that you're alive, no, they consider you dead. Okay? Now, up until the age of 8, or before the age of 8, a boy gets a title. What's that title?
Master.
Master. What's a master? Somebody who's in charge. Somebody who can't be imprisoned, can't be fined, can't be accosted in any way. Just like a 7-year-old boy shouldn't be able to be. Yeah. But once that boy turns 8, he gets a different title. What's that title? Mr. Has anybody wondered what Mr. means? Well, if you look it up in a legal dictionary, you find Mr. means somebody engaged in mystery. M-I-S-T-E-R-Y. And when you look up mystery, it means a trade or business. So that title that they make sure when you fill in a form, choose a title, is another bit of evidence that you are a trade or business, something that comes under government, okay? So women are not really highly regarded in this system. So what's your first title, ladies? Is that your first title? You were born Mrs., were you? Miss, okay. What do you think Miss means? It means miss out, ignore, no status whatsoever, okay? But that changes once you get married. So what's your changed title then? Mrs. So what does that mean? Okay, let me spell it a different way. M-R-apostrophe-S. Misters, belonging to the mister, belonging to the trade or business. So when you get married, it's a corporate merger between two businesses, and you enter into a 3-way agreement between you, your partner, and the state. That means the state has an interest in the products of that merger, i.e. children, okay? So it's all about agreements, contracts, and consent, okay? And I will use lots of trickery to get you to consent to things. So now I'm going to do a little experiment, okay? I want to find out who are the left-brained people and who are the right-brained people. Right, so these circles are different. Now I want you to tell me which circle is bigger than the other one. Right? If you're not sure, if you can somehow get to more of a middle position and look again. So take a look very carefully. Sorry, yeah.
Green one.
Green. So, how many, by show of hands, how many people think the blue one is bigger? Well, only a few. Oh wow. So does everyone think the red one's bigger? Oh, who hasn't chosen?
I think it's both the same.
Right. Now, I'll choose you to represent everyone else. Right? Now,
I can keep a mouth shut.
now I made this image myself, so I know the difference. So I want you to stand about here. Come stand up here and look very carefully. Right? Look very carefully. Right? And see which one is bigger.
No, they're both the same. Like I say.
Now I'm telling you, I made this image myself. Yeah? I know the difference. Tell me which one's bigger.
If I'd have to disagree with myself, I'd say the red one was bigger.
So the red one, you sure? Just look.
It's gonna be bigger.
Is there a bigger circle at the back of the room somewhere? There, that one there, that window, that's the bigger circle.
So you're saying red?
I say red.
Okay, thank you.
Nice one.
Actually, they are both the same size. But what I did there was I used word magic on you, yeah? I used word magic on you. Yeah, I said, these two circles are different, yeah? Let's say, oh, one's red, one's blue. And then I said, which one's bigger than the other one? In your mind, you link the two things together, and I've got some of you to say the blue one, some of you to say the red one, and you know, I showed you and I said, and I used more word magic on him to get him to choose, to change his mind. Yeah?
Well, I was unchanged.
I know. You know, if you were stronger willed, and I'm not saying anything about you, because this works on all of us.
This is all about. That's why I'm here to listen.
Because it works on all of us. If you get a lot more word magic used on you, you'll cave in and you'll go along with it. Yeah? Yeah, so it's word magic, and word magic is very, very powerful. In fact, it's so powerful, when I've done this experiment, yeah, even when I've said they're both the same size, somebody's like, I still think the red one's bigger. Because it's so powerful, yeah? The power of suggestion, okay? It's so powerful that a hypnotist can, just with the right words, convince somebody that a raw onion is an apple. And for that person, that is now his reality. There's nothing you can say to that person to make him change his mind that that onion is not an apple. Okay? Just with the power of suggestion. Okay? And we have the biggest hypnotists in the world, normally in everyone's front room. Yeah? That machine was not designed to educate you or entertain you. Yeah? It wasn't designed for that at all. It was designed to program your mind. It was designed to give your mind false realities. Yeah? There was a reason why, I don't know, when these things first came out, they were fabulously expensive. And the only way that everyone could afford it is because the government made sure that Rediffusion and DER would rent them to you for £1 a week or something. So everyone got to get television. They needed everyone to get television so they could program the whole nation all at once. Okay? A very powerful tool, and if you've still got one, throw the damn thing out. Yeah? So here's a bit more of the manipulation. Again, this is the language of the legal system, called legalese. It's a foreign language. Even though it looks like English, it sounds like English, but every word has been redefined to mean something else. Okay? So the word register, okay? So you might think it means to record. The word register means to hand over title ownership of whatever you're registering with whoever you're registering with. So imagine you register your car. You've basically just handed over that ownership of that car to the DVLA. And you become the keeper.
Yeah.
They tell you, you're no longer the owner, you are the keeper. Okay? You register your children. Yeah? You've just handed your children over to the state. And you become the pair that rents them. Yeah? It's all in the words. Okay? So this is the trickery, the word magic they use to get you to hand over your goods to the government, essentially. The word person, I've already explained that. That's a trade or business. Yeah, it's you're not a person. You have a person. You've had a person issued to you. Yeah, that birth certificate. You are not a person. Because again, the words are tricky, yeah? You know, this person is liable. Well, if you don't know that you're not a person, then you think you're liable, yeah? The word identify, to make the same as, already said. The word notice, okay? That's a tricky one. Has anyone ever got a notice of intended prosecution?
No.
Yeah, come on, admit it. I know some of you have.
Admit it.
Well, have you ever wondered, why have they given you notice of intended prosecution? Why doesn't it just be prosecution on top? Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, the word notice means offer. Do you want to be prosecuted? That's literally what it is. It's an offer of prosecution. Yeah? Whenever you see the word notice, it means offer. Okay? The word summons, that also seems to give you an impression that you are obliged to turn up somewhere. Yeah? The word summons means invitation. You're being invited to somebody's place of business for a summary judgment service they're offering you. Okay? The word must, again, also gives you the impression you're obligated to do something. The word must is synonymous with the word may. So when it says you must do something, you may do it. Yeah, see how tricky this is? Yeah? The word understand, I think most people get this now. The word understand doesn't mean do you comprehend the words coming out of my mouth. It means do you stand under? Do you agree to be bound by? Do you accept these charges? As soon as you say, yes, I understand, they've got you. Yeah? You've agreed, yeah? You've consented to this legislation. Okay? So that's why the police actually say it to you. You know, they say, I am charging you with doing 50 and a 30. Do you understand? Yeah, that's what they, now, when I
Yes.
come up to you and pick on you, right, you got to pretend you're a muggle and you know nothing. Yes, I understand. So as soon as you say yes to that question, now you've agreed to the legislation. Now you become a driver or a person that's under government. Okay, that's the trick in a nutshell. The word includes. That's another tricky one. Okay, so let's imagine that the government have made an edict and say everyone must pay £5,000, including homeless people. Well, in your mind, it means everyone's got to pay this money, including those homeless people who think they're exempt. No, what it means is only homeless people are liable for this. I forgot to give you the definition. So, sorry, what includes means is, if you go look at it in a legal dictionary, you won't find the usual term and definition. What you'll find is a line of Latin text that says, inclusio ulterius est exclusio unium, or something like that. So thank you for Latin now. What that means is, the inclusion of one is the exclusion of others. So when it says including homeless people, it means only homeless people. The inclusion of one is the exclusion of everyone else. Do you get that? Does that make sense? Yeah, it's very tricky. Yeah, because in your mind you think of it as something completely different. Okay? The word requirement, well, the legal system uses the word requirement a lot. You know, you are required to do this. You know, it seems again, it makes you think you need to do something. The word require, or requirement, means request. It's just a request. And you can politely decline a request. Okay? But finally, the word apply. The word apply means to beg. So when you apply for things, you know, you make an application, right? You're literally begging for something. So if you apply or submit an application for registration, well, the word submit means to bend to somebody else's will. Okay, so what you're doing is you're bending to somebody else's will and begging them to take your stuff from you. That's literally it. They're laughing at us. So a couple more legalese words that are sort of used a lot just lately. The word mandate. Okay, so let's read this. a written command given by a principal to an agent. Stop there. Are you an agent of government?
No.
Well, this is only, the mandates are only liable to people who are in that principal-agent relationship. Such a relationship might be employer-employee. Yeah? But unless you're an agent of government, it doesn't apply to you. Let's carry on. A written command given by a principal to an agent. Specifically, a commission or contract by which one person, the mandator, requests. So it's a request. Yeah? Requests someone, the mandatory, to perform some service gratuitously, for free, voluntarily. The commission becoming effective when the mandatory agrees. So it's not mandatory upon you until you agree to it. Now it's mandatory. Yeah? And the word compulsory, well, the first one is mandated. So this applies. Yeah? Mandated by legal process or statute. What's the power of statute? Power of statute, yeah, gets the force of law by your consent.
Yeah.
So both of these mean voluntary. And if you take a step back from all this, what makes you think that a word written down on paper or a word spoken by somebody compels you to do anything? It's crazy. Why are we doing this? Yeah, it's just a word. Okay, but we believe the power of the word, so that's how they get us. And you're going to find that this world is awash in this legalese speak. Yeah. Now it's not going to be as obvious as the example I'm going to show you, but you know, if you watch television, you're going to hear it all the time. So hopefully this isn't going to be too loud.
Pizza! I didn't hear the delivery guy pull up.
That's because it's not delivery.
Really?
And it's not exactly pizza either. It's almost pizza.
Come on, that's pizza.
No, it's very nearly pizza, but not quite. It's almost pizza. See? Come on, let's eat.
So it's tofu pizza or something like that.
No, you could put tofu on a pizza and still legally call it pizza. But don't call this pizza. It's almost pizza. Pizza that's practically pizza in every way, except for a few key ones. Come on, dig in.
But it's food though, right?
Come on.
Pizza! Nice one, Mom.
Hang on here. What exactly is this, Carol?
It looks like pizza.
It's meant to.
But it's not. If it was pizza, it would just say pizza.
Look, I'll eat some.
Sure smells like pizza.
That was their intention.
Whose?
Just try it, Tom. It's getting cold.
No, if anything, it's getting hotter. Okay, what is this, Carol?
Just eat some.
Hell no!
I'll eat it.
No!
I never said it was pizza.
If it's almost dinner, it's almost time for almost pizza. The thing that's much like pizza, roughly speaking. From Pfizer.
As I said, it's not going to be as obvious as that. But you hear this language being used a lot. You know, you remember when they started saying, oh, so-and-so died with COVID. Most people heard they died of COVID. Yeah? This is that legalese word magic that they use all the time. Yeah? So, I'm going to talk about contracts now. Any questions? No? Let's move on.
Just one question.
Yeah?
Going on earlier about getting married and all that and having kids. What about when kids are born out of wedlock?
Well, here's the thing. Before all this system came to place, getting married was, two people would get all their friends together and say, we're together now. And they'd do some little ceremony like jumping a broomstick or having their hands tied together. And all their friends would say, yeah, we all know you're together now. And the family would record it in a family Bible, and a church would look at that Bible and record it in their ledger. That was it. Okay? Now it's turned into a legal agreement. Yeah? Government stepped in and put a legal agreement in place, which is why it's so difficult to get out of that agreement now. Yeah? You have to jump through their hoops to get a divorce. They used to call that the earlier type of marriage. Anyone know what it's called? Common law marriage. Common law marriage, yeah? It's the real marriage, but again, they put this veneer of the legal system over the top of it. Now you have to go through their hoops, yeah? But if you just get together with somebody and stay with them, I think it's a year or, a year, sorry? Year and a day, okay? Now you're considered common law married, yeah? In the real sense of the word, okay? So if you don't go through their legal system, their legal process, they haven't got that first prima facie bit of evidence that they own your marriage, yeah? Which is why they don't give you the benefits of being married in their system, okay? Any more questions? No? Good, let's move on. Right, so I'm going to talk about contracts now, yeah? It's important to know a bit about contracts because you're going to find yourself trapped in contracts without even knowing it, yeah? So it'd be a good idea to know what your power is when it comes to contracts. So there are 4 elements of a contract, okay? Somebody told me, no, there's more than that, but these are the important ones, okay? So I like to remember them with the acronym FLEM, okay? So I'll apply the FLEM test to all these contracts. So the first one, full disclosure. The terms and conditions of the contract must be fully disclosed to you, all the terms and conditions, and they have to be included within the contract that you sign, yeah? Now, I'll give an example of a contract that you don't know you enter into, right? A hidden contract, right? It's a driving license. The driving license is a contract, right? We all think it's a certificate of competency. You know, some grumpy guy with a clipboard is bashing your dashboard, and he's saying, okay, I've seen how you drive, and I think you've passed, okay? Now, if it was a certificate of competency, wouldn't he sign it? He doesn't sign it, does he? No. Who signs it? Oh, for crying out. Who signs the driving? You do. Good grief. Pulling teeth here, you know. No, so you sign it. So why are you signing it? You're signing a contract. You're signing a contract saying, I voluntarily waive my natural right to travel for the benefit privilege of being something called a driver. Okay? And that's right there. Sorry?
They never tell you that.
Of course they're not going to tell you, because when we get into the section on driving, I'll show you why they don't tell you, okay? But it's a contract. The thing is about the driving license is that the terms and conditions of that driving license aren't on that driving license. They're in the Road Traffic Act. So the driving license fails on that point alone, okay? Lawful terms and conditions. The terms and conditions must be lawful. Any element of fraud or deception renders it null and void. Yeah? Not telling you that's what you're doing, yeah, by signing it, is fraud. Yeah? So it fails on that one as well. Okay? Equal consideration. Both sides have to put up something of equal value. So when you enter in the contract, both parties have to give something of equal value. Well, natural right and a benefit privilege aren't equal. Okay? Manifestation of intent is signatures, right? Your signature, you know, is the sign that you intend to do something, and you're putting your name to it, okay? Well, both parties, or all parties to that contract, must put their name on that contract. There's only one signature on that driving license. Yeah? So your driving license as a contract fails on all 4 parts. Yeah? If any one of these parts fail, that means the contract is null and void. Okay? So there are 4 ways to agree to a contract. Okay? The first way, the obvious way, is a written contract. And as I said, most contracts are hidden. Driving license is a good example. So your signature on that contract is very powerful. Your signature in general is very, very powerful. Okay? Most people give away their signature without a care in the world. But imagine you go into a bank and you can walk out of that bank with £100,000. What do they take from you for that £100,000? Your signature. Just your signature. That's how powerful it is. So always read and dissect a contract before signing it. So when I came back to this country in 2010, I couldn't reopen my old bank account. I had to open a new bank account. So they gave me this form and they said, just sign there and we'll open your bank account for you. I said, you know what? I'm going to take it home and I'll come back in the morning. So I took it home and I read through this this thing, and I saw a couple of things I didn't like. Saw a couple of charges I didn't like. So what I did was I crossed them out. I crossed it out and initialed it at the end. I found 2 charges. I crossed them both out. Now, if I was a bit more savvy,
What were they?
sorry.
What were the charges?
The charges were, you know, if you your balance goes below whatever, you know, you agree to pay whatever. Yeah, it was £30 at the time, and there was something else I can't remember, but it's just 2 charges I didn't like the sound of. If I'd been a bit more savvy, I would have written in what I wanted in that contract, just initialed it at the end, but I only crossed out 2 things, and I signed it, I folded it back up. Next morning, just as they expected me to sign it without reading it, they accepted it without reading it. So a couple of months later, my balance dipped below 0 for a microsecond, and they went, £30 charge. I'm like, I'm not paying it. You have to. No, I don't. It's not in our contract. Oh, yes, it is. Go and look. 2 weeks later, I got a letter saying we're removing that charge. The point is, you have just as much power in a contract as the other party. Doesn't matter if that party is a massive bank, right? You have just as much power in contracts. What should have happened was they looked at it and said, oh, it doesn't like £30 charge. What about £25? Well, £20 would have been better. Okay, we'll make it £20. We both sign it, and now we've got a contract. But obviously, it doesn't happen like that these days. Okay, but always read and dissect a contract before signing it. And once you sign it, as soon as you sign it, now it becomes law to you. Yeah, because now it's an agreement and it becomes law. So on the subject of your signature, protecting your signature, okay? If you're being forced to sign something, let's say you've been stopped by the police and for some reason they say, oh, we're going to take your car if you don't sign this or whatever, yeah? Sign it with the words under duress as part of your signature, okay? That basically signifies that you're being forced to sign, which renders that signature null and void. It's as though you never signed it. Yeah, because a signature has to be voluntary. You voluntarily sign something. If somebody's forcing you, well, that means that signature is null and void. And putting it under duress, there are other ways of doing it. You can put 3 dots or the letters VC, which is via coacti in Latin, which also means under duress. But I like the direct approach. The words under duress saying, I've been forced to sign this. Yeah? So sometimes a policeman or somebody will say, well, that's not your signature. But you can say, well, how do you know? It's my signature. It could be whatever I want it to be. Yeah? So, you know, if you're being forced, use the words under duress. If you're writing a document, okay, so as a good practice, you use the words without prejudice as part of your signature. Okay? Without prejudice means I reserve my right to not to be compelled to perform under any contract or commercial agreement that I did not enter into knowingly, voluntarily, and intentionally. And I do not accept the liability of the compelled benefit of any contract or commercial agreement not revealed to myself, which are my rights pursuant to common law. Okay, that's all wrapped up in that phrase, without prejudice. It means that if there's any bullshit in that contract, right, you don't have to be held by it. Okay? Very good policy to do and to get used to doing. It also means that any document that you've signed without prejudice can't be used in court against you. Okay? So the second way to agree to a contract is a verbal contract. And you enter into a verbal contract by answering questions. Simply by answering questions. Yeah, the policeman's saying, well, I'm charging you for doing 15 and 30. Do you understand? And you say, Muggle, yes, sir. Right? Now a verbal contract. He's now consented to that charge. We've got a verbal contract now. Just like when I said, would you like me to punch you in the face? And if you said yes, please. Right? Now we've got a contract. Well, now that you've agreed, I can punch you in the face. But now we've got a verbal contract, and I can go ahead and do what I want. So you can enter into a verbal contract just by answering questions. Now, the best way to deal with that is to answer questions with questions. Yeah, it's a very tricky skill to master. Yeah, but what it is doing is batting the ball back into their court. Yeah, so I'm charging you with doing 15-30. Yeah, was I? So yeah, was I? No. So now, you know, I've not committed to anything. I've just thrown the ball back into his court. Now he's got to come up and prove that I was doing 15-30. Yeah, or stand over there, sir. Well, am I obliged to stand over there? Well, now you know. Now I've thrown the ball back into his court, and now he's got to come up with a reason why I have to stand over there. Okay. Yeah. So, as I said, it's a tricky skill to master. So I'm going to show you a little video about how this game is played. Okay.
Do you want to play questions?
How to play that? You have to ask questions. Statement one love. Cheating. How? I haven't started yet. Statement two love. Are you counting that? What? Are you counting that? Foul, no repetition, 3 love game. I'm not going to play if you're going to be like that. Who's serve? Hesitation, love one. Who's go? Why? Why not? What for? Foul! No synonyms! 1-0! What in God's name is going on? Foul, no rhetoric, 2-1. What does it all add up to? Can't you guess? Are you addressing me? Is there anyone else? Who? How would I know? Why do you ask? Are you serious? Was that rhetoric? No! Statement 2 or get a point.
What's the matter with you today?
When?
What?
Are you deaf?
Am I dead?
Yes or no?
Is there a choice?
Is there a goal?
Foul. No non sequiturs. 3-2, 1 game all.
What's your name?
What's yours?
You first.
Statement. 1 love.
What's your name when you're at home?
What's yours?
When I'm at home?
Is it different at home?
What home?
Haven't you got one?
Why do you ask?
What are you driving at?
What's your name?
Repetition. 2 love. Match point.
Who do you think you are?
Rhetoric. Game and match.
As I said, it's a tricky skill to master. Yeah, but yeah, it's actually fun trying to practice. When I gave this talk to like a homeschool group of 8 to 14-year-olds, yeah, after the lesson, they were out in the garden going, "Am I obliged to do that?" Yeah, no practicing. They're really getting really good at it. Yeah? But as I said, it's a tricky skill to master, and it's easy for you to get caught out by it. Yeah. So the third way to agree is consent implied by your actions. Yeah. So answering a stranger's question, right, is actually giving them authority over you to demand answers from you. Yeah. So if a stranger walked up to you and said, "Where do you live?"
Sorry.
So right, you've just given me authority over you to demand where you live. Yeah? Normally you'd say, "Who are you?"
Yeah, what's going
What
on?
makes you think you can ask me where I live, you know?
I thought about it.
Yeah, I know. Yes, you did really well. But there you go. Most muggles would automatically answer because we've been taught at school to answer an authority figure's questions without hesitation. Yeah, that's what school's all about. Yeah, getting you to submit to authority. Yeah. So just imagine like it's a stranger, you know, just demanding stuff from you, you know. So as soon as you answer a stranger's questions, now you've handed over authority to that stranger. Yeah. If a policeman orders you to do something, policeman says, "Don't stand in that corner," and you go, "Oh, okay." Yeah. Well, now you've given that policeman authority over you to command you to do things, expect you to do them. Yeah. So the best way to deal with that is, again, answer a question with a, or answer with a question. Yeah. Am I obliged to stand in the corner? Now the ball's back in their court. Now they've got to come up with a compelling reason why you have to go and stand over there. Yeah. As soon as you just automatically, do as you're told, you've given them authority, and they're going to take that authority and run with it. Yeah. The first bit of authority you give them, they're going to keep, commanding you to do things. If you don't, now you're in dishonor. Okay. The best one is this a request or is it an order? Because if it's a request, well, you can politely decline a request. But if it's an order, well, orders are chargeable. Yeah? If you go to McDonald's, I don't suggest anyone goes to McDonald's, by the way. If you go to McDonald's and order a cheeseburger, what comes next? You pay for it. But what comes next, apart from the fries, what comes next is you pay for it. Yeah? Who sets the price of that cheeseburger? They do, right? So if somebody orders you to do something, well, you can charge for that order, and you can set the price. It's as simple as that, yeah? So, go stand over there. Oh, actually, I can tell you, if you go to my channel on YouTube, there's a video of me getting stopped by the police. And they say to me, one cop says to me, get out of the car. I said, I'm happy to get out of the car, but I don't work for free. If you want me to get out of the car, it's going to cost you £20,000. Do you still want me to get out of the car? He said, yes. I said, hold on a sec. And I wrote out an invoice. And he signed it on camera. But here's the thing, he actually went into an agreement with me. Yeah? And now 1 million people have seen that agreement being made. Yeah? So this is the point.
Did you get into any crash?
I didn't, and there's a reason for that. Yeah. There was a couple of things I was going to do, but I knew that if okay, let me just step back. One of the things I was going to do was get something called a commercial lien against the police, which means I'd get a debt sort of authorised against the police for like £50,000 or something. So what I was going to do was going to go to Hertfordshire and start clamping police cars. And I had a friend of a recovery company who was going to pick up those clamped police cars and line them up outside my house. So I could do a YouTube video of me standing there going... and I was going to get my 20,000 and take the guy to court and all that. But I knew, as soon as I did that, I'd have every cop in the country gunning for me. And there were other things I needed to do, so I left it. Yeah. So anyway, you can charge for any order that's made to you. Yeah, somebody gets a liability order out against you. Great, I charge £1,000 to service that order. Do you still want this liability order? Do you still want to place an order with me? Yeah. So any order at all, you can use this. Yeah. You have got just as much power in this system as everybody else. If they're going to charge you things, you can charge them.
So Dave, we're just saying, same with council tax, put the same thing?
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, they put bills
in
to us,
your
we just send them
notices,
that,
in your notices, it says at the bottom here, in your notices, add a fee schedule.
Yeah.
If somebody's harassing you, you can say, okay, you're harassing, you've got no power to talk to me, right? If you contact me again, I charge this much to answer your letter. Or I charge this much for every letter you send. I charge this much for any response. And I also charge this much for research time. And I also charge £100 inconvenience fee. I also charge a £50 bottom wiping fee. Whatever you can make up with, whatever you can make up. Charge them for it, yeah? But just as they make up charges against us, you can make them up against them. Yeah? If they want to.
Does that stand in court then?
Yes. It's about business. Yeah, the whole legal system is about business. So if they're doing business with you, you can do business with them. Yeah? I'll show you, actually I can show you right now, okay? So I'll just say, they're expecting somebody to fulfill an order for free, yeah? It's not only business malpractice, it's extortion and blackmail, okay? So yes, you can use this in court. So there's a type of contract called an adhesion contract, and you're likely to see one of these in a car park. An adhesion contract, leave it type of deal, okay? So in a car park, you're going to find there's a notice somewhere that says, notice, by parking in this car park, you agree to the following fees. And then they lay out their fee schedule, yeah? And that contract is deemed to be executed as soon as you park your car there. It's deemed that you've accepted their terms and conditions, and now you're in contract with them, okay? So you can counter their notice with your own notice.
Yeah.
Now, if I came up here with my car, you'd see in the window of my car is pretty much this notice. And so the first section here is telling you who this applies to. You know, policemen, traffic wardens, all that sort of thing. This section, if you agree to pay £250 for each notice that is attached or issued to this car.
Yeah.
So if they put a ticket on your car, £250 please. Yeah? You agree to pay £125 for each image or photograph you take of this car. So if you get the notice of intended prosecution, got 2 pictures of your car in there, £250 please. Yeah? If you clamp this private conveyance, you thereby agree to pay £500 per hour or portion thereof until the clamp is removed. Yeah? So you're laying out your terms and conditions. If they want to do business with you, this is what it's going to cost.
Can't need that.
Sorry?
I need that growing that.
So they think?
So I need that.
Well, yeah, again, I've got this in my window. If you move or relocate or tow this car, you thereby agree to pay £750 per hour or portion thereof until this car is returned to me, its lawful owner. Now, I've had this notice in my window, and 2 times it's sort of come in handy. There's a time me and a load of friends, I went to a party and we parked along the road. We didn't know it was residents only. Yeah? Came out in the morning, all the cars along the road had tickets on them apart from mine. The one time I did get a parking ticket, right, it was for 50 quid. So I wrote to the company, I said, thank you for your parking fine of £50. Yeah? Your parking attendant would have noticed my notice in my window. And I charge £250 for the service of fixing things to my car. Send me a cheque for £250 and I'll send you one back for 50. I never heard from them again. So again, it's very, very powerful because just as they can do business with you, you can do business with them.
Do you use that on public roads, though?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that,
So you don't get any tickets?
Well, no, I don't get. When I do, I can handle them just by saying it.
Yeah.
We're both in contract.
sorry, has anybody ever cleaned on that, got that money? You know,
No, here's the
but
thing.
that's the vlog thing, yeah.
Here's the thing.
Comes to one out. Yeah,
But here's the thing. It's not about getting the money. It's a shield. Okay.
yeah.
I call it the £25 hamburger. If you go down to McDonald's and say, I like cheeseburger, and the guy in the clown suit says, now hamburger's 25 quid. Do you still want to buy that hamburger? Most people are going to say, no, it's all right, no, I'm not going to.
Walk off.
Walk off. Yeah? This is what you're doing. You're making it too expensive for them to go into business with them. Yeah? It's not about trying to get money out of a corporation, because it's going to be hard work to get money out of a corporation. Yeah, but this is just for your defence. Okay? Sorry?
It says lawful owner.
Yes.
Are you really the lawful owner?
Yes, I am. Even though legally they've tricked you into taking ownership, legally, lawfully, I'm still the owner. Yeah, because I went into an agreement with the seller in good faith to buy that car to be its owner, and I didn't know that because it was registered that I didn't have ownership. It's trickery. So it's an unenforceable contract. So I'm still a lawful owner.
No, you do know that.
And what I've done, what I usually do is deregister my car.
That's a really important thing, that, Dave. Can you tell us how we do that?
That is a long conversation, and I've had to cut down this talk to 2 or 3 hours, rather than my usual talk is 8 hours long. Yeah? And don't worry, because it doesn't feel like 8 hours, believe me. Yeah. But yeah, I've had to cut out lots of stuff to get this in. Right. So
Where can we learn to deregister?
you can give me a shout, because I'm just about to do that. I've put a call out for somebody to give me a car they don't want, and I'm going to turn it into a right to travel demonstrator. And I'm going to do the whole process through, obviously and sort of transparently, and film its adventures.
Okay, test subject.
So yeah, I'll share the documents and everything when I do it. So the fourth way to agree is by tacit acquiescence. That means by your silence. Okay. Yes, you have the right to remain silent, but if somebody makes you an offer and you remain silent in the face of that offer, then they can deem that offer being as accepted, because you've silently accepted it. Yeah. If I was in the schoolyard and I marched up to Rich and say, "You're a dickhead," no, so you're a dickhead, and you sit there and don't say anything. Well, you're now a dickhead because you didn't disagree. But if you stood up and said, "No, I'm not," what are you going to do? Now you've rebutted my assertion, and now you're not a dickhead because you've rebutted it. Yeah. This is how they go. If you remain silent in the face of an offer, then you've accepted that offer. Okay. So, yeah, the maxim law is he who's silent consents. Okay. So judges use this trick all the time. Yeah. So you might go to court and a judge will say, "Okay, I'm going to fine you £500." And what the judge will do next is he'll pause. Now, depending on what sort of actor he is, he might shuffle paperwork or look around the court for the next person to talk to. But what he's really doing is pausing. And that pause is your opportunity to object. And if you don't object, you've silently accepted his pronouncement. Now, this happened in court, okay? This woman was in court and the judge did just that. He said, I'm going to fine you £500. And without missing a beat, she said, "I'm not going to pay it. I'm not paying that." And the judge leaned forward and said, "What about £250? Because that's what it is, it's an offer. And if you don't rebut it, it stands. Okay?
Yeah.
Now the government uses this as well. So do you remember when the mask mandate on public transport came in? They said from March 25th, you have to wear a mask on public transport. Yeah? They didn't say from now, they said from like 2 weeks in the future, you're going to have to wear a mask. Did you ever wonder why they keep saying in the future you're going to have to do this? That time from now to then is your opportunity to object. And if you don't object, righto, mask mandate it is then. Okay? And that's how it works. So I don't know if you remember, but when the vaccines were first coming out, the first thing they said was nurses and frontline workers were going to be the first to get the vaccine. And then all of a sudden, they changed their mind and they said, "Oh no, old people are going to get it first." Well, they didn't just change their minds. Nurses and frontline workers said, "No, we're not doing it," and they had to back off. Okay, so that's basically how it works. Do the same with council tax. I don't know how they're doing it now, but in the past, does anyone get the local paper anymore? No, okay. But you used to get the local paper, and usually around about March, April time, they would stick in a 3-page spread to say, "This is what we're going to do with your council tax," and they put the pie chart on there and all this. That was public notice. That was remember what notice means? Yeah. Offer. Okay. We would like to take council tax off you. Right? And if you don't object to that offer, then righto, council tax for another year. Okay? That's how it works.
Marston's have had to send all theirs back, haven't they?
Sorry?
Marston's have had to send all their council debts back to the councils.
Have they?
Yeah.
Ah, well, if you know what you're doing, you can get all of them to do that. That's the point. Right, so moving on to driving and travelling. So, because there's no questions, are there? No? Good. Right, so driving and travelling. Right? I've already covered most of this. That you know, driving license is a contract, and you know, when you sign it, you've given away your right to travel in any way you see fit. Okay? Registering your car gives it over to the government, and you become the keeper. Okay? A driving license, as I said, fails a phlegm test every point. Okay? So it's an unenforceable contract. So this is, as far as common law is concerned, this is how you've got to dissect the English language, because we're not taught grammar properly. Yeah. So in the Road Traffic Act, it defines a motor vehicle as a mechanically propelled vehicle. So it's right there, it's telling you a vehicle is not a motor vehicle. They're two different things. Okay. If it was the same thing, then it'd be a nonsense. You can't define something with the same word. Yeah. So it's a mechanically propelled vehicle adapted or intended for use on the road. That definition uses the indefinite article a. Yeah. Now that's telling you something very important. So let's define an apple as a round red fruit. Okay. Are these all apples? No, they're not. It means that an apple is just one type of round red fruit. Okay? Just as not all these mechanically propelled vehicles are motor vehicles. Yeah? Not all of those mechanically propelled vehicles are motor vehicles. So let's see which ones of these are actual motor vehicles. So again, this is how you have to dissect legalese, because they don't make it easy. Okay? So the legal definition of a motor vehicle. So again, the Road Traffic Act says a motor vehicle is a mechanically propelled vehicle adapted or intended for use on the road. Well, you can't automatically assume you know what these words mean. So what does a vehicle mean? Vehicle includes every description of carriage or other artificial contrivance used or capable of being used as a means of transportation on land. So what's a carriage? Carriage, a vehicle used, so that's a circular reference there. A vehicle is a carriage is a vehicle, so on and so on. But anyway, a vehicle used for the transportation of persons either for business or pleasure. So what's transportation? Transportation, the removal of goods or persons from one place to another by a carrier. What's a carrier? Carrier, one who undertakes to transport persons or property from place to place by means of conveyance and with or without compensation. What's an undertaking? A promise, engagement or stipulation. Each of the promises made by the parties to a contract. So, I mean, does that not sound a bit commercial to you? Yes, it does. So a motor vehicle, if just by replacing the legalese words with their English definitions, motor vehicle is every description of mechanically propelled artificial contrivance adapted or intended for use on the road, used or capable of being used as a means of removing goods or persons from place to place, one place to another, by one who has promised, contracted, or been engaged to transport persons or property from place to place with or without compensation. Does that describe your car?
No.
No, it doesn't. You know, is this a butter knife or is it a deadly weapon? Anyone? It's a butter knife. Yeah? If I was to grab that butter knife and try and stab you in the eye with it, now it's a deadly weapon. Yeah? But until then, it's a butter knife. Okay? So how it's used determines its classification. So if you were to jump in your car and go to Tesco's to buy a loaf of bread, right? Is it a motor vehicle? No. But if you, on the way back from Tesco's, get a call from somebody who wants an Uber to Gatwick Airport, and you go and pick this person up, now it's a motor vehicle. So you get it? Yeah? Now you've changed the way you're using it, now it becomes a motor vehicle, now it comes under the Road Traffic Act, etc., etc. Okay? So what is a driver? Okay? Look in the Black's Law Dictionary, 2nd edition. It says, one who is employed to conduct or operate a carriage. So what's a conductor? A lessee, somebody who leases something, a lessee, or a person who hires the services of another, a hirer, a person hired to make specific work, a contractor especially for the provision of public services. Right, so essentially, a contract is a, it also means that a conductor is somebody who pays somebody to drive a car. So a taxi operator, yeah, is a driver, even though he's not actually driving the car, yeah. So again, this is, to drive means to commercially operate a vehicle used for transporting passengers or property for hire, yeah. So unless you're doing that, right? Unless you're doing that, you're not a driver. You jump in the car to go to Tesco's, you're not driving, you're travelling. Yeah? Travelling. Sorry, I nearly knew that. So,
from these guys, I'm learning.
okay. So yeah, the driving rules do not apply to travellers, right? Because you're not acting in commerce, yeah? The word traffic, for instance, doesn't mean lots of cars. It means commerce, drug trafficking, yeah? Buying and selling transportation, yeah? So the Road Traffic Act is actually the Road Commerce Act. Does it apply to you? No, okay? So what this means is, if we go back to this picture, this is a motor vehicle, right? Because it's been driven by somebody who's been employed to move passengers or goods from place to place. So is this. And I actually made another version of this where I made that one a taxi. So a taxi is a motor vehicle, yeah? Anything that's been used to transport goods and passengers by somebody who's employed to do so is a motor vehicle. Everything else is not.
What about travelling to and from work?
You're still not acting in commerce, are you?
Well, you said it.
Travelling, yes.
Travelling
Yeah,
from
but
home to
I'm
work.
thinking about van men, builders and things like that.
Unless you're acting in commerce on the road.
You're not getting paid by the government.
Right.
You're not charging to go over your truck.
Right, that's it. But a taxi is actually doing business on the roads, using the roads to do business. Yeah. So this is a freedom of information request that a friend of mine sent to the DVLA. Okay. I'm going to have to zoom in on it. Yeah. It says, I acknowledge that the common law right to travel still exists, full stop. Okay? The rest of this letter is all bullshit word magic to make you believe that you still need tax, MOT, insurance and all that. Yeah? The operative sentence is, I acknowledge that the common law right to travel still exists. But now it's talking about drivers. The driver must have mandatory motor insurance. We're not talking about drivers. We're talking about, the right to travel. So they put that in there so you get fooled that, I still need tax, MOT, insurance. Okay. So yeah, if you talk to the DVLA, right, you send that to them, you'll find they'll do this word magic thing to try not to tell you the truth. Right. Sorry?
What are you asking for in your freedom of information request?
Is the right to travel still exists, if it does still exist? And they confirmed it.
Dave, the only part on that very top paragraph is the fact that they've put the word vehicle in there, isn't it? If they hadn't got that vehicle in there, they would actually be telling people the truth, wouldn't they?
Kind
of.
of.
There, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, they on their letters, when you deal with any of these corporations, they'll put mistakes in it all over the place. Yeah. And again, it's up to you to spot the mistakes and rebut them. Yeah. And that's it. If you don't rebut it, you accept it. Okay. So they've all put mistakes in there, so that you just accept it.
Does your driving licence not counteract the right to travel?
It does.
You signed that contract.
It does, yes. But as I've shown you, it's an unenforceable contract. Yeah, on all counts, it's unenforceable. Yeah. So I'm going to show you a video of somebody actually standing up for himself. Yeah.
In the last
communications between that guy and DVLA.
Oh, one person at a time, sorry, I can't.
The person for DVLA got fed up with him asking questions because he wasn't giving him correct answers. And in the very last email, it was just 2 lines, one saying, I've answered all your questions and I'm not going to reply to you anymore.
Yeah.
And then the second one was words to the effect, you are obliged to pay. Well, if you look up the definition of obliged, you don't have to.
Exactly.
And that was from DVLA.
Yeah.
I carry that in the car to show.
Yeah, well, as I said, it's, again, they're trying to use word magic because the muggle will see that and go, oh, I have to. Yeah. But if you know what you're looking at, then no, you don't. Yeah. So I'm going to just show you a video of somebody actually putting this knowledge into practice. Okay. I might set it up.
There's no registered keeper to the vehicle.
I just want to know whether a crime's been committed, sir. If you could talk to me, please.
Sorry?
Has a crime been committed?
Crime hasn't been committed, no.
Right, so why are you talking to me, sir, if you don't mind?
Well, if you listen to me, you'll ascertain the details because we've just checked...
Under what law do I need to give you my details?
You can ask me, let me give you an answer. Or you're going to keep interrupting me.
Go on then.
We're speaking to you, sir, because your vehicle is showing up as in trade.
This is not a vehicle, it's my own private conveyance.
Right, I'll just stop it there for a sec. Notice, whenever the policeman says you're a vehicle or driver, he rebuts it immediately. Yeah? It's the only way he didn't get caught out, right? So listen out for it.
But I'm just telling you, it's not a vehicle. It's my own private conveyance.
Yes, the vehicle is marked as
It's not a vehicle. It's my own private property, my own private conveyance.
The car is a vehicle.
No, it isn't. If you look it up, do you know the law? Do you? Well, you know that a vehicle is used if someone pays you to use it. My own, this is my private property, and can I just ask you, what law are you asking me questions under? You're here under your oath today, aren't you, sir?
The car has come up with no registered keeper.
What has that got to do with me? Can I ascertain something then? Are you here under your oath today?
What question are you asking that for?
I'm asking because you stood here asking me questions. I'm asking if you're here under your oath to uphold the law. Yeah? Right, to uphold the law, common law, that's the law of the land, yeah? And to serve the public.
It's common law and criminal law, sir.
No, what's your oath? You're here under your oath today, you're not, sir?
I'm just asking some questions.
I'm asking you if you're here under your oath, because if you're not, we've got a problem, haven't we? You're here to serve the public and uphold the law of the land, is that not true?
I can't understand, sir, why you're being so offended.
But I want to just go about my business as a free man, that's all it is. Right.
All we're trying to say to you is, we're just asking you, because it's come back with insurance on the vehicle, okay? Now, at the moment, it's not registered in your name, okay? So keep viewing me, alright?
Yeah, it's all right.
It's in your name, okay? Shall I start recording you in a minute?
You can if you want, that's totally up to you.
Details, right? It's not going to come back as your name. So we just want to make sure that this vehicle goes back to you, and you're happy that you want to drive that vehicle.
But I'm not a driver, and this isn't a vehicle. If you know the law, then you'll know that, won't you? I'm not getting paid to operate this. So why are you here asking me questions? That's what I want to know. What law has been broken? What law's been broken, sir?
I'm not saying law's been broken.
Why are you questioning me? Am I detained then?
We've got the power to ask people questions, haven't we, in relation to the vehicle.
You can ask whatever you want, but it's not in relation to a vehicle. Sir, you need to be here under common law, under your oath. If not, I'll be pressing charges against both of you for misconduct in a public office. Do you understand?
I understand perfectly, sir.
So am I detained? Right. So I do not require your services and there won't be any joinder here today. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand perfectly what you're saying.
Right, so...
I can't understand why you're being so hostile when we...
I'm not being hostile, but my girlfriend's feeding my son here, yeah? Reports that my mum's gone into the co-op. I'm sat here minding my own business.
We're just making sure that everything...
And I'll offer you the same courtesy if you leave me alone. Is that okay, sir? I've been quite polite with you. The thing is that she's feeding my son, and you've come up here asking me questions about a vehicle. This is not a vehicle, and knowing the law, you'll know that, sir, won't you? No, it is not. Sir, do you not know the law? Do you not know the law? Because it's quite troubling, this. If you're here to enforce an act, I do not consent. An act is a statute, is a law of the sea. I'm here under common law, and I know my rights. Yes, it is. Did you not know that? Well, why are you asking me questions about acts? This driver and vehicle are to do with acts.
I'm not asking you questions about acts. It's a simple question.
So what are you asking me questions about then?
You got off this car.
And I'm saying I do not wish to have any joinder with you two today. Thank you, sirs.
Have a good day, sir.
You too, sir. Thank you.
Brilliant. Now, I gave this talk in London, right, and I had a lawyer sitting front and centre right there, and all the way through it up to this point, he was going and rolling his eyes and writing things down, and going, oh, like that. And then when he watched that, he stood there like his jaw was hitting the floor. He couldn't believe that this guy stood his ground against the police with all this stuff that I was saying. Yeah? It's incredible. But the way this guy was acting was like a sovereign. Yeah, he wasn't intimidated by these people, right? And he knew his position was above them. Yeah, and he was telling them, "Don't you know the law that you're supposed to be, upholding?" Yeah, and literally they had to walk away.
Yeah, but if he slipped up and said it was a vehicle.
If he slipped up, yeah, they would have got him. They would have taken him.
So if you actually say the word. If you actually say the word.
If you agree or you confess or you create joinder in any way, right, and they're trained to try and get you to admit to something, right, then they've got you.
You have to deprogram yourself.
Yes, you do.
Tell yourself you're travelling, not driving.
Yeah.
But here's the question, how many times he needs to stand his ground like this?
Sorry?
How many times he needs to defend himself like this because of that car?
Well, at first, he's probably going to have to do it a lot, right? But, eventually, and if he backs some of this up with action, yeah? If he starts taking private prosecutions against these police who are harassing him, yeah? They'll be told, leave this guy alone, yeah? So, there happens to be a group of people on the road today, right, who don't have tax, MOT and insurance, right, and they don't get bothered by police. Well, I think these days the police are trying to do it, to get them, but historically, they wouldn't have any tax licenses or anything like that. The police would leave them alone because they were travellers. They're not drivers. They never bought into the bullshit, yeah? And just around this one, it's off. This is a freedom of information. Oh, not quite around it off, but another a letter to an MP about driving licences. Thank you for contacting me about driving licences. There is no legal requirement for a driving licence in the United Kingdom. Right there, from the horse's mouth. Okay. Why you got a driving licence is because everyone else got one, and you were told, well, you'll be stopped by the police if you don't. Yeah. Right, you followed the herd. Okay, and this is the way we've been taught to live. Follow everyone else in front. Yeah? But there's no requirement for one in this country.
Does that apply if it's your job?
No, if your job is actually being a driver, then you need a driving license. Yeah? But if you're not a driver, then you don't need one. Yeah? Yes. If you're a taxi driver and if you're a taxi driver and you jump in the car to go to Tesco's, well, at that point you're travelling to Tesco's. But if you've got a fare in the back, yeah, then you're driving. Yeah.
So how do you get around the driving licence in that case then? So you use it in their system when you're taxiing, and then you not use it when you are...
Well, this is how it's supposed to work, yeah? I don't know if everyone remembers the tax discs. Do you remember there were two classifications, but you could only choose one. Like there was P and PLG, and then you could only choose PLG. What does PLG stand for? You're admitting that you're transporting light goods. So you've accepted that classification for your car.
But they never told us that.
I know.
They ain't driving there, nothing.
People calling the track though, is the point I'm trying to make.
Yes, that's the
point
point.
he's trying to make.
Call on something that makes you stop and think, you have no idea that you're doing it all wrong.
Exactly, and you know what? Most muggles, and I call the normal people out there have no idea, I call them muggles. The most muggles, if they live a life of doing everything they're told, they can believe that out there is a system of justice and truth and righteousness. Yeah, it's only when they fall foul of it they start to realise it doesn't work like that. It's not fair. Yeah, but if you play with, be a good little citizen, you never know. And you've got the luxury of standing there looking at people who are standing up against you going, what idiots! Don't they know they've got to have tax, MOT and insurance? That's what we're up against.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, it is. So, dealing with traffic tickets, okay? So, speeding, parking, in London there's something called ULEZ, ultra low emission zone, okay? And congestion charges. None of these are crimes, okay? There's no victim, no injured party, so they're not crimes. The parking adhesion contract isn't lawful, really, right? Or really enforceable, okay? There's a lot to go into why, but I'm not going to go into it. But what they do is they need you to confess to breaching a contract. And they require a witness with first-hand knowledge of the incident, okay? So, I'll ask you a question. Okay, I'll ask you a question. Where were you 2 weeks ago on Saturday at 5:45 p.m? Come on, hurry up.
No idea.
No idea. Okay, so you can neither confirm nor deny that you were at any particular place. Because you've got no idea. Yeah? Just remember, keep that in the back of your mind. Thing to remember is a camera is not a witness. A photograph is not evidence. If a camera was a witness, you could go to court and say, I call the camera. I want to cross-examine that camera. Yeah? But you can't, because it's not a witness. Right? A photograph isn't evidence. That photograph might look like your car, but there's any number of reasons why it might not be your car. That car could be cloned. Yeah? Lots of people are looking at number plates. Oh, that car looks like mine. I'll note down the number plate. I'll put it on my car so he can pay my tax and insurance. Yeah? Or there could be a bit of bird shit on an F to make it look like an E. Or any number of reasons to mean that photograph isn't your car. Okay?
What, is it your face?
Sorry?
What's your face?
Well, it looks like me, it looks a bit like me, but I'm not sure it is. Yeah? So,
But they've got to prove that then, haven't they?
that's the point. That's the whole point. They've got to prove. Whoever makes an allegation must prove. Okay? So, and also, you also have the right to remain silent and not to incriminate you, right? Which negates any obligation to fill in driver details. Because all these traffic tickets require you to confess. That's it. You need to confess to it. Okay? So let's look at traffic tickets then. So this is going to be a bit long, so bear with me. So this letter is something you can use for any of these traffic tickets, whether it's parking, ULEZ, congestion charge, or speeding. Yeah. So, dear sir, madam, thank you for your unsigned, which means anything unsigned means it's got no legal effect whatsoever. Yeah, by the way. Thank you for your unsigned notice of intended prosecution, dated date, which I possibly opened in error, as at first sight it appeared to be addressed to myself, because it's going to come in all capital letters. Yeah, that's not you. It's not addressed to you. Yeah, but because if you open it, then you're admitting it's you. Okay, so this first paragraph is basically throwing it back on them. Yeah, so it appeared to be addressed to myself. I've noted the content of your notice and returned it to you. I must admit I don't understand the alleged contravention. However, I'm happy to accept your offer of a penalty charge on condition that you provide substantive verification of a few points. Number one, please provide material evidence, not hearsay or opinion, which proves beyond a reasonable doubt that your notice was addressed to and intended for myself, the living man known as Dave of the family Murphy, and not the person named Mr. David Murphy. Because, again, it is to Mr. David Murphy, not to you. Yeah? So now you're asking them to prove it. Okay? Prove it applies to me. Next bit. The alleged offence apparently took place on date, time, location. Whilst it's possible that I was travelling in my private car at that time, I'm not familiar with location, so I can neither confirm nor deny that either myself or my private car were at that location on that date and at that time. Yeah? So, number two, please provide proof that either my private car and or myself were at that location, date and time. The onus is on them to prove that you were there. Yeah? Having read the description of the alleged offence, I'm unable to determine who it was that sustained any harm, injury or loss, or whether a breach of the peace occurred. Please provide the name of the injured party and his or her sworn testimony detailing the nature of the tort or injury. Okay? So, you know, they're trying to say there's some kind of crime occurred, some kind of offence occurred. Who got injured? Yeah? The photocopied images you provided do indeed bear a striking resemblance to my private car, but do you have any material evidence that they relate in any way to my private car? Well, you know, as I said, it looks like your car, but do they have evidence that it is? Please provide the sworn testimony of 2 or more witnesses who have first-hand knowledge of the matter. Okay? It says in the Old Testament, I think it's in Deuteronomy, out of the mouths of 2 or more witnesses shall a matter be decided. So, in any event, they have to have at least 2 witnesses to speak against you. Yeah? Again, a camera is not a witness. Okay?
If your car's got scratches on it, you can see the scratches.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Climate had scratch. Oh no, just for the
any number of reasons, right? The cloner might be very clever. I want to make it look just right.
Have you ever seen my fake
So, having consulted Dun and Bradstreet, I've discovered that, and in this case this was a letter to Devon and Cornwall Police, whoever it was, is actually a for-profit corporation, and as such has as much authority over me as any other private company actively trading for profit. You are therefore unable to place any demands upon me without my express consent. Please provide a copy of a lawful 2-party contract between myself and whoever, bearing my wetting signature, obligating performance, or material evidence, not hearsay or opinion, which proves beyond a reasonable doubt that your company has the power to force me into contracting with you. Yeah? Right. So, please provide the requested information with accompanying documentation and proofs in affidavit sworn under oath or attestation under penalty of perjury and upon your full commercial liability that the facts contained therein are true, correct and complete and are not misleading within 7 days of date of this letter. Otherwise it would be deemed a tacit agreement by your acquiescence that all parties, to mean you and your principal, or other parties, abandon all demands against me. Here's the bit where you can do business with them. Alternatively, I'd be happy to accept the offer of prosecution without the need for you to provide proof of your claims for a one-off payment of £2,500, yeah? And an administration fee of £500 plus expenses. Please notify me in writing if you intend to proceed with this prosecution without proof of your claims and thus accepting my terms and conditions. Please note, if you proceed with this prosecution without providing the requested proof of claims, then you agree to pay a one-off payment of £2,500, administration fee of £500, plus an inconvenience fee of £1,000. I must also decline your offer to complete the form on the reverse of the notice of intended prosecution. So you notice on the back, there's always a form to fill in saying, please tell us who the driver was. Yeah? So I must decline your offer to complete the form, as I've not been presented with any material evidence that myself or my private car were involved in this offence. So unless and until I receive such evidence, I'm not willing to waive my inalienable right to silence in order to provide consent or evidence for any use or for use in any subsequent prosecution, nor do I wish to enter contract with your company. So it covers all bases. Yeah? All you're saying at this point, you're not saying I'm not going to pay, I'm not going to, you're saying prove your claim. Yeah? So they can't move forward. They've got to prove their claim first. Because up until this, right, all they've got is hearsay. All they've got is a photograph, which could be anything, could even be photoshopped. Yeah? All they've got is a camera saying that you were apparently at this place at this time. Yeah? And you just saying, well, I don't know that for sure. Give me some evidence. And they can't go forward from there. Okay? Or they can, and they have to pay your terms and conditions.
Is there any website with these templates on
there? No, but if you give me a shout, I can send it to you.
Oh, cheers, mate.
Yeah.
Sorry, what's the argument about using something like that, just totally ignoring it?
So using something
tacit agreement if you ignore it.
Replying to them with that letter, or just totally ignoring it?
If you totally ignore it, yeah, again, after 3 days, 72 hours, they assume, right, that you've got their letter and you've accepted it with tacit acquiescence, yeah? You've got 3 business days to respond. If that letter goes back to them, yeah, unopened, it's not deemed served. So they can't move forward.
So if you're well on holiday,
yeah,
you're buggered.
Well, kind of. They'll start the wheels turning for the next stage, and so on and so on. Yeah. So it's always best to approach these things head on. Don't hide and pretend they're not there, yeah, because then their wheels will start turning anyway. Yeah.
But the ultimate result is they're going to have somebody knocking on the door, and if you don't open the door, there's nothing they can do.
Well, yeah. The ultimate result is that they'll get a debt collector. Come after you, and
no powers.
No powers. But then, if they don't get anywhere else, another debt collector will turn up, and you're now going to have to field those people. And because their business model is simply fear and intimidation.
So you can avoid that by doing that.
You can avoid that. So yeah.
You say within three days.
Yeah, 3 business days. 2 hours. Yeah.
Have you received it?
Yeah.
What if they've got your number plate on photo?
Well, same thing.
Could be
As I said,
claimed, yeah.
How do you know there's not a bit of bird shit that turns a P into an R? Yeah? Or, or they photoshopped it. You don't know, okay?
Is this serving notice then? And you need proof that they've opened that letter, don't you? So how do you get that proof?
Say that again?
Is, serving notice, is this the same as serving notice on them? Or when you send this, you need proof that they've opened that letter, don't you?
No, you should send it with recorded delivery. Yeah, and that's enough.
Someone's got to sign that.
Would you sign it? Pass that, would you?
You know what? I do sign it, but you can just not sign it if you want to. Yeah. Sorry? Well, you should say that, yeah, because this is I used a similar thing on this. This was for speeding in the City of London, right? And this is what's known as a technical climb down. Yeah, they can't just say you're right. We have no evidence. They have to come up with something to say we're gonna leave this alone. And they came up in this case with the fact something about foreign tax or foreign issued vehicle policies and whatever. I don't know. I didn't even have insurance at that time, so they're just talking about all this stuff. But the key thing is, I confirm on this occasion that no further action will be taken against you on this matter. Yeah, but they had to come up with all this stuff to justify it. Yeah.
Excuse me. So what would you advise if you've got a ticket that's been over here 3 days or whatever? What do you advise if you've got one that's you've had it for 2 weeks?
And nothing's come back from it since.
Well, if you haven't sent it, you haven't sent it to them, you haven't engaged with them whatsoever.
Okay, and I'm saying nothing has come back since from them.
Nothing.
Well, you can do this, and you pretend you're on holiday or something if they haven't started the wheels in motion yet. Yeah, so you can do this, but it's harder work if they're behind the scenes already starting the wheels. Yeah. So Now this is somebody who actually she, as soon as I gave this talk, she actually got a parking ticket, yeah, and so she thought she'd attack it. All right. Now she didn't use it the way I said. You know, she didn't approach it the way I said to approach it. So don't do this, okay? So this is her response. I've had the letter stating her parked name card, blah 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 blah. However, I can confirm by writing that, and it should say neither myself nor my partner were there on that day. That's the wrong thing to say. We've just made a statement, right? And now they can quite legitimately ask you to prove that statement. The best way is to say, I can neither confirm nor deny that I was there at that time. That is a true statement, okay? And they can't say anything against it. Indeed, the number plate looks like mine, but I feel it is a scam of some kind. Again, that's another statement, okay? And now they can legitimately say, can you prove that statement? Can you prove that it's a scam? Yeah? So then they follow up with, can you kindly provide eyewitness statement for further evidence? They haven't given you any evidence, so you saying further evidence is saying that they've given you evidence. Yeah? So unfortunately, I've said this, don't do it this way, yeah? Even though she actually got let off for this, using this, yeah? But I say don't do it this way because you're actually giving them a way to beat you. Okay? So I say it in a very specific way so it doesn't leave them any outs. Because with this, they can now say, could you prove it was a scam? Now somebody actually didn't listen to what I said and they literally copied this letter and sent it. And they're like, well, they've come back at me, what do I do now? And I said, why did you use this? I told you not to do it this way. Yeah, but now he's in trouble because they've asked him for proof that it was a scam and proof that they weren't there on that day. Because they invited that when we were making statements. Does that make sense? Yeah? So yeah, don't do it this way. Right. So I think I should give you a little break actually. Are you okay for a break or do you want me to carry on? Okay, so...
You break as well, don't you?
Yeah, well, yeah, so what, 5-10 minutes? Okay. So we're going to start off with the police force. Okay? Police. Right, so police force. First thing to know about the police force is they're a company. Okay? You can go on Donald Street, which is a place that will give you company information, right? And you can look them up, and they pop up straight away. Yeah? And they're all they are subsidiaries of the I think Ministry of Justice or something, but they're companies making profit, for-profit companies making profit out of all of us. Every time they find somebody, they get a cut of it. Yeah? Every time they put somebody in prison, they get a cut. Okay? So yes, bear that in mind because they're always doing business with you. So, as I said earlier, we used to have the constables who would serve and protect us and uphold common law. But very slowly, boiling frog styly, the constable, friendly Bobby on the beat, got morphed into this guy, the police officer. Yeah, his job is to collect revenue, yeah, by issuing fines and PCNs, yeah, to enforce statutes. That's what police means, policy enforcer, okay? Now the thing is that underneath this uniform is this guy, okay? Underneath the police officer is the police constable, because they both take the constable's oath. So you've heard when somebody is dealing with the police, they say, are you on your oath today? If they say yes, that means now they're not a police officer, they're a constable, okay? And they're now bound to serve and protect and uphold common law, yeah? So, you know, when the police are acting on a civil matter, yeah, they're trying to batter you under a civil matter, right? Well, you get them on their own. Now they can't harass you on a civil matter. They're there to uphold the common law.
When they removed the bobbies, the local police, I seen him a few years later. I said, Dave, where's the local bobbies? He says they tell us that we're too familiarised with the people. I said, well, that's what you're supposed to do. They tell you that piece.
Yes, because now we're all the enemy. Yeah? We're all perpetrators. Yeah, we're all criminals. Okay, and it's true because there's something like I'm told it's over 60 million acts, statutes, and regulations and rules and stuff, and you're supposed to know every single one of them. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse. Yeah? You're supposed to know every single one of them, which means every time you step outside your front door, you're breaking one or other of these rules. It's only a matter of time before one of these policy enforcers catches you and applies a fine to you and makes money from you. Okay? But remember, underneath this uniform is this guy. Yeah? So this is the oath that they swear. Okay? To uphold.
They don't swear it, they declare it.
Oh, okay. Alright. So it's not sworn anymore?
No, they declare it.
Oh, okay, yes, it does say that, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay, it's supposed to swear it, but this is what they declare, okay? That upholding fundamental human rights, yeah? Prevent all offences against people or property, yeah? Despite the fact that it's these guys these days are committing most of the offences against people and their property, yeah? So here's a gang of 6 police officers honouring their solemn oath.
Look at the woman punch you. That's
Wow.
Once you get the knee in there,
Now this isn't England. I think this might be Ireland. But it doesn't matter because this is happening everywhere. Yeah? If you've gone to a protest in this country, you're going to see this happen, but usually a ring of police saying, stay back, stay back. Yeah, while there's someone's getting brutalised in the middle. Yeah? Happening everywhere. That's enough of that. Yeah? So, the thing about the police is that they have exactly the same powers and duties as all of you have. Okay? Exactly the same powers and duties. You have the power of arrest. Just because they call it citizen's arrest doesn't mean it's any different from their power of arrest. Okay? You have the same duties as they have. If somebody was being beaten to death right there, okay, it is your duty as a sovereign being to do the best of your ability to get involved and stop that crime being committed. That is your duty as a sovereign being. Okay? If you don't, then you're a party to it. You're saying by standing there and doing nothing, you're agreeing to it. Okay? So it's your duty to stop crime. Okay? Thing is that, remember the TV? It creates the illusion of authority and power. Okay? There's a reason why there's so many cop shows on television. Yeah? It's there to program you, to tell you that they can do stuff that they can't actually do. Yeah, we all grew up on Starsky and Hutch or whatever, you know, them kicking doors in and beating people up and doing all this stuff. And we get to believe that police can do that. Yeah? But they can't. Okay? Yeah, again, the TV's giving you this illusion, right? They've got no power over you unless you give it to them. And I've already told you the ways that they can get power over you by, if they order you to do something and you do it, or they ask you questions and you answer, they get authority and power over you, okay? Again, they've got no jurisdiction over civil matters. Yeah? All they can do is report a civil matter to whatever agency is involved. So when they stop you and you've got no tax or insurance or something, their only duty is to say, right, I'm going to report you to the DVLA, have a nice night. That's it, okay? But they routinely go beyond the scope of their powers because public opinion believes they can. Because we, collectively believe they can, they do. Yeah? So, unless you committed a crime, if you commit a crime, they can just haul you away because you committed a crime, you should be. Yeah? But unless you commit a crime, they need your name, date of birth, and address, those 3 bits of information, to be able to identify you. That is, make you the same as one of their slaves, one of their persons, one of their citizens. As soon as you identify yourself, you've now created joinder, given up your sovereign status, and become, one of their straw men, right? When a policeman starts talking to you, he doesn't want to be your friend. He doesn't care if you're having a nice day or not. Yeah? He's not really interested in where you're actually going. He's interacting with you to fish for information. Yeah? To get you to give him authority. Yeah? Get you to confess to something, or get you to argue. If you argue, well, there's a place for argument. They call that court. Yeah. So, if they get you to get annoyed, to rile you up, because if you start getting annoyed, they can get you under a public order offence. Okay. So they're always fishing because they're under a quota. It's a business. The police have got a quota to fill. So many interactions, so many arrests, so many whatever. Okay. Now, if they arrest you, right, the best thing to do is remain silent. If they arrest you, the most they can hold you really is 24 hours. 23 hours, 59 minutes. Yeah? If you don't give them any information at all, nothing they can do. They need the name, date of birth, and address before they can proceed anywhere. Okay? Remember, arrest without charge is assault. It's also false imprisonment. It's also false imprisonment if they detain you on the street. Yeah, if they stop you from going anywhere, yeah, that is false imprisonment. Okay? And it's also misconduct in public office. Now, misconduct in public office has teeth because it has a life sentence attached to it if they get convicted of it. Okay, so it has teeth. So, do you need, sorry?
Did you say being detained on the street is?
False imprisonment.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So, do you need to give them your details? No. No, you don't, yeah? Remember, if you're not committed a crime, they've got no power over you whatsoever, yeah? You have the right to remain silent, yeah? Now, sometimes, if they want your details, they might threaten to arrest you for not giving your details. Right? So, what is the first line of the police caution? You don't have to say anything. You have the right to remain silent. So, how can they arrest you for exercising your right to remain silent if the first line of the caution is you have the right to remain silent? It's a nonsense. Yeah, but because they prey on our ignorance. Yeah, and the idea that they've got the ability to arrest you. Right, well now they have because everyone believes it. Okay, but you point this out to them, then unless they're a psychopath, they're likely to then back off because they realise it's a nonsense. They've also got a flow chart they have to follow. Okay, it's the 4 E's. Yeah, it is engage, explain, encourage, enforce. They can't jump straight to enforce. They literally have to go step by step by step by step. Yeah. So, it's, hello ma'am, how are you today?
Great.
Right, I can just tick off engage, because now I've just engaged with her. Yeah? Well, I'm here to tell you about the coronavirus rules. You're not allowed to be in a room with more than 2 people. You don't have to say anything, I can now tick off explain. Yeah? So, I may have to arrest you if you don't go home, because now you are in breach of the regulations. Right? Well now, sorry? So now I've encouraged you to go home now. Yeah. If you don't go, now I can jump to enforce. Okay. See how it works? Yeah. So I put there, and I'm going to show you in a second. there's a couple of pieces of case law that are useful. Rice versus Connolly, 1966. Okay. Now I'm going to show you a video, and I have to preface it. Now I was at Stand in the Park. This is early on in the pandemic thing, yeah. And there's a cafe in the park. So I went into the cafe, no mask on, and the guy says, "You got to wear a mask." And I said, "No, I don't. I'm exempt." "But you got to wear a mask." Blah blah blah. We had a back and forth. Nothing violent or heavy or anything. It was just this back and forth. Eventually, I said to him, "You know what? I don't want anything in here anyway." And I left and I sat on the grass. About 5-10 minutes later, 4 police arrived to haul me off. And the owner had called the police on me. Yeah. Now they don't send 4 people just to have a chat with you. Yeah. They sent 4 coppers to haul me off. Okay, so this video is what happened next. So I'll just stop for a second. Now it's going to be noisy at the beginning, but if you listen carefully, you'll start hearing me say one thing over and over and over. Okay. So I'm down here, first 2 coppers.
Sit over here, behind me, and just
Rice versus Connolly, 1966. Rice versus Connolly, 1966. Rice versus Connolly, 1966. Rice versus Connolly, 1966.
Let's try and get everyone there. Let's try and get, go on then, we just need one person to go in.
Rice versus Connolly, 1966.
Come on, everyone say the same race, it's more nice.
Rice versus Connolly, 1966. 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 Watch this guy. Rice versus Connolly, 1966. Rice versus Connolly, 1966. Rice versus Connolly, 1966. Right, so what happened next was these guys got into their huddle, yeah, and I describe it like they hung around awkwardly like eunuchs at a swingers party. And then they wandered off. That's it. Now, the point is, every time they opened their mouth and said anything to me, I said, Rice versus Connolly, 1966. But sir, Rice versus Connolly, 1966. Yeah? I never let them even finish a sentence. Point is, I didn't let them even get to engage. So they couldn't go through their flowchart. They were stuck at engage. Okay? Now, if I didn't know what I was doing, they would have hauled me off. The 4 of them. Yeah? They wanted somebody. Yeah? But just knowing that, Rice versus Connolly, and what Rice versus Connolly is a bit of case law that says, while there may be a moral duty to speak to police, there is no legal one. You do not have to speak to the police at all. You could say Rice versus Connolly, or you could just go, yeah? Right? You do not have to speak to them. Yeah? So it doesn't matter if they didn't know what Rice versus Connolly was, they could not speak to me. They could not engage with me. Yeah? So it's a useful one to know. It's also Neal versus DPP 2021. This was another court case that upheld Rice versus Connolly, but this one was about coronavirus. So somebody refused to speak to the police. They tried to do it for obstruction, and the court upheld Rice versus Connolly. Okay, so you can use either one. Okay. So, can they fine you and/or seize your property? Well, it turns out they can't. Yeah. We have 2 articles of the British Constitution. It might surprise you that we've got one. Yeah. Our Constitution isn't written down like the Americans on one piece of paper. Our Constitution is spread out across many acts and treaties and things. Okay. The main one is the Magna Carta 1215. Article 39 says No free man is to be arrested, imprisoned, or deceased because he's dispossessed, or outlawed, or exiled, or in any other way ruined, nor will go against him or send against him, except for, by lawful judgment of his peers or by the law of the land. It means before conviction, they can't do anything to you. This is also upheld by the Bill of Rights Act, 1689, that all grants and promises of fines and forfeitures of a particular person before conviction are illegal and void. Yeah?
That's a big one.
Which means they cannot punish you before you get convicted of something. So, sorry, say again.
They take it to court, like they took me to court for not paying the fine. And dealt with, no, I didn't even know about it. And then they can get the bailiffs onto you.
Right, a lot of the time, okay. Unfortunately, I'm not talking about court today because that's like another 45 minutes or whatever. I couldn't afford the time.
Yeah.
But most of the time, you're not in court, okay. You're in pretend court. Yeah. And if you don't know you're in pretend court, you go along with it, and but it's pretend court. So the British Constitution can't be repealed or superseded. So if there's any act like the Road Traffic Act that says they can seize your goods, right? Well, that is impliedly repealing the British Constitution, which can't happen. It's treason. Yeah. So, and there's a court case called Thoburn versus Sunderland City, 2003, that upheld that you cannot touch these articles of the British Constitution. So, sorry? Thoburn versus Sunderland City, 2003. Yeah. It says there is a difference between ordinary statutes and constitutional statutes. Constitutional statutes may not be impliedly repealed. That means no subsequent legislation can repeal what's been said in that act. Yeah, and that includes 1689. Anyway, so the thing is, you in this country, you are presumed innocent until proven guilty. So when they fine you or take your goods, they are punishing an innocent person, which they can't do. Police are not judge, jury, and executioner. Yeah, they can't deny due process of law, and you can only be punished once you've been convicted of something. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of this sort of on Facebook and stuff, where the police forces around the country proudly announce they've seized somebody's car because it hasn't got tax, or they've seized it because they were driving irresponsibly, or whatever. Yeah. So I sent a freedom of information request to Greater Manchester Police. I said, could you tell me what the lawful basis of your seizures are? And they sent me a whole stack of legislation to look at. It took me 3 days to read through it all. Yeah. But once I read through it all, I realised they have no lawful basis. What they do is convince you that they can seize your car. They get you out of the car, and then they'll say, I will take you to the train station or wherever you want to go, but they get you out of there. And then later, they come back and go, oh look, an abandoned car. We'll take this away for safety. Essentially, they salvage it. It's abandoned. Okay? That is their only lawful basis. It's not even lawful. It's their only basis of these seizures. Yeah? Again, through our ignorance of the way things work. So, can you be detained by the police? Again, no, they can't lawfully detain you. They can either arrest you or let you go. Okay? Any kind of detainment, again, is false imprisonment. Okay? And there are rules against that. If they detain you, false imprisonment. If they threaten to arrest you, right, that's assault. Okay? If they threaten to arrest you and grab you, that's assault and battery. Yeah? The best way to deal with this is to put them in this double bind. Okay? Remembering that all they can do is either arrest you or let you go. Yeah? So, am I under arrest? No. That means I must be free to go, yeah? No. Oh, so I must be under arrest, yeah? No. So I must be free to go, yeah? No. So, eventually they get bored. because literally that's all they can do, right? And I'm going to show you a video now of somebody being stopped. And notice when the guy says, am I free to go? Notice how quiet they get, because they don't want to tell you that, you know, they can't detain you. They'd rather let you imagine they can. Okay? So I want to play the video.
Have you come from today?
Why are you stopping me?
Because we're doing some patrols in the area.
Who am I with?
Who are you with? I'm
with?
PC White.
PC White.
Sinclair, mate, 22721. We're just stopping to have a quick chat, that's all. There's no need to get defensive.
Who's defensive?
Yourself.
How am I defensive?
Because you're recording us because you've really got an issue.
Recording you is defensive.
A little bit. You've asked us why we stopped you straight away. We've just come to have a chat.
We've got a chat. A chat? Yeah, I don't want to have a chat. You want to have a chat. Okay. You can't force me to have a chat.
You 100%.
So can I go?
You will in a second.
Can I go? Am I allowed to go? You can't just force me to have a chat. You've just said it's against my consent. Am I allowed to go? If I go now, am I going to be grabbed? I'm trying to go because I'm about to walk now because you like really got me scared. You just pulled up on a sergeant. I'm gonna walk. I'm gonna walk. Okay. Goodbye, PC White and PC who?
Now they don't want to say
Goodbye.
See, that's it. That's as simple as it gets. Okay? They've got no lawful basis to stop you and keep you. Right? If you say, "Can I go? Am I free to go?" You'll notice they go very quiet because they don't want to admit that yes, you are free to go.
Well, they just play on people's ignorance.
Yes, and he remains quiet and looks menacing, and people fill in the gaps of their own imagination. Yeah. So yes.
And they project, don't they? Well, why are you being aggressive?
Yeah.
Actually, why are you stopping me?
Yeah, they're the ones being aggressive.
Yeah.
They're just walking down the road, you know.
We just want to chat.
Yeah. Yeah. Why do I need to chat with you? You know. Right. So, dealing with police, okay? Don't be intimidated by TV shows. Again, that's what they're there for, to make you feel afraid of them. And it works. It works because, you know, I don't care how brave you are, I don't care how knowledgeable you are, I don't care how many pieces of paper you've got, yeah? When those blue lights come on behind you, you get that stab of fear. Is it me? What have I done? What have I done? Yeah? They've done a good number on every one of us. Okay? So yes, don't be intimidated by TV shows, what you think they can do. Okay? Don't be intimidated by that uniform. Yeah, that uniform is designed to intimidate you. That's why every security guard, traffic warden, they're all wearing the same thing because they know it terrifies people. Yeah, I did this talk in a group, and the guy said there were two occasions where he realised the power of this uniform. First one was him and his friends were on a stag night, and they were having a laugh and everything. They weren't being too rowdy, but a policewoman arrived, and they all suddenly sobered up, and they were like, "Oh, what have we done? What's wrong?" And it turns out she was a stripper grab. Well, that uniform was enough to stop them in their tracks. Yeah. The other occasion he said was he was getting ready for a fancy dress party. Yeah. He's putting his costume on. There's a knock on the door. Went downstairs. A copper was standing there. And again he froze. He's like, "What's happened? What's wrong?" And he didn't recognise it was his best mate also going to the same fancy dress party. Yeah. So that uniform has power. Yeah, it's there to intimidate you, okay? Don't let it intimidate you, right? Remember, if you've not committed a crime, they've got no power over you whatsoever, right? They need reasonable, articulable suspicion just to talk to you. They need to have a reasonable suspicion to that you've committed a crime, you're about to commit a crime, or something like that. It can't be, I don't like the way you look, or I don't know who you are. That's not reasonable, okay? They've got to be able to articulate it as well, okay? They need you to give them authority, answers, or an argument, okay? Because those occasions are what allow them to move forward with things, okay? So you get in a position with them, you can either use Rice versus Conley, or you can say things like, "I don't answer questions." that one's a bit fraught with difficulties because as soon as you say, I don't answer questions, first thing they're going to do is they're going to fire loads of questions at you. And eventually you're going to answer one of them. And that's it, now they've got you, okay? Or you can play the game of questions, okay? If they arrest you, remain silent, 24 hours maximum, that's it, you know? There was a friend of mine who was arrested. He remained silent the whole time he was in there, okay? And he phoned me up and said, they still got me. I remained silent, but they got me. And I don't know how it happened. I said, well, describe what happened there. He said, they took me out in front of the desk sergeant, right? 2 coppers who took me out, disappeared. The desk sergeant walked off and left me standing there. And he noticed there was a piece of paper on the desk in front of him. And it had his name in all capital letters, and it said, warning. So he picked it up, turned it over. As soon as he did that, they jumped on him. Because I said to him, if that piece of paper had my name on it, would you have picked it up? Well, no. But because he saw his name on it, or what he thought was his name, he picked it up, took ownership of it, and then agreed to be that name. And that's how they got him. Okay?
What a move.
They're very sneaky, very sneaky. So again, arrest without charges, assault, false imprisonment is misconduct in public office. Best thing to do, not say anything to the police. But if you do say something to the police, stay calm, yet assertive. In this country, we're taught to be subserviently polite. Yeah? So when I teach people, police constables, yeah? So the police constables, we do role plays, okay? So the police constables have they've got like a policeman, a victim, and the police constable's got to get involved in the situation. So the first role play, mostly, what happens is, the police constable goes, excuse me, or sorry, you know, to enter the situation. That's how we've been taught, you know, say sorry, you know. I was walking through a street in Paris one day, and some of the shops, the doors open outwards. Okay, so I'm walking down the street, 2 Frenchmen barge into the street and bump into me. And I go, sorry. And these 2 Frenchmen walk down the street going, sorry, sorry. Because it's ridiculous. They bumped into me and I said sorry. You know? That's the way we've been trained. Okay? We've got to get out of that and be assertive yet calm. Okay? And this is what assertive looks like.
On the lawn?
Yeah, it was on the lawn. It wasn't on the lawn, it was on the driveway. It was on the pathway.
Okay.
Yeah. And I put it in my car.
Yeah.
Yeah. I own the bike.
Okay, and I appreciate you said that.
Yeah.
But I just want proof that you...
I don't have to, listen, I don't have to show you proof, okay? How about that? Do I? Tell me, do I lawfully have to show you proof that I purchased that bike? Answer the question and be very, very careful about what comes out of your mouth, Constable. Do I have to... No, you don't want to cause conflict, but what you want to do is you want to give half-truths and half-statements without informing. Do I legally have to show you proof that I bought that bike? Answer the question. Would you like me to answer it for you? The answer is no, I don't. So I'm going to say to you again, I bought the bike, it's going to stay in my car until I decide to take it out. Now you're no longer required. Goodbye. You dismissed me, I've just told you.
My boss, you can't tell.
You're a public servant.
Yes.
And how can you tell me I'm not your boss? Everybody around here who pays tax is your boss. You're going to tell me that you swear an oath to the Queen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? And when is the last time Britain had a monarchy, mate? When's the last time we weren't governed by a parliament? About you're a crown servant. You are a public servant. You're here to serve the public. You're here to uphold the law. You're here to honour your oath. Act with integrity, impartiality. Okay? You're not doing that right now. I suggest you start asserting yourself in a bit of a better way, Constable.
Appreciate the advice.
I'm not taking the bike out of my car. It's mine. I bought it. I put it in the car. No, listen. You have no reason... You're frustrating me because you're speaking to me when I haven't committed a crime. Now, if I wasn't so clued up on the law, if I wasn't so clued up on the law, you would have been abusing my rights right now. Listen, Article 2, 10 or 8, take your pick.
What I'm asking is just
You're asking me, why are you asking me about my property? What's in your pockets, mate? Show me what's in your pockets. Why are you asking about my private property? Why are you even look? In fact, listen, hold on a second. Listen to me a second, right? I need a search record for you searching my car.
I haven't searched a car.
How do you know the bike's in there then? How do you know that the bike is in my car? Because you looked in, yeah? That's a search. So I want a search record, please. I want a copy of the search record. And I want your reasons for the search also. I know the law. Did you just say my name?
Yes.
Yeah, don't do that again.
Come on, that is being assertive, yeah? It was, sometimes, yeah? Sorry, fella. Right. Look at the boy. All right, Kev. All right, ready? Can I just have a little... I think so, yeah, I guess. Thank you. All right. Yeah, so that was being assertive. Now, there's a couple of points he brought up there, yeah? You know, why are you asking me about my personal property? Yeah, he's got no right to do that, yeah? Also, when you deal with police, they'll be asking you personal questions. Right? I've done this before, yeah? When they've asked me personal questions, I've said, how many times a week do you masturbate? Do you have homosexual thoughts about your partner? You know? Yeah? I mean, if they can ask me personal questions, I can ask them personal questions, yeah? So no, you saw how he dealt with them. He dealt with them as a sovereign, above them, telling them what their job is, and the fact that they're not doing their job, yeah? This is where we've got to get to remember that we're sovereigns, and they are below us, not the other way around. Yeah, because you're going against decades and decades of programming to tell you that these people are above us. They're not, okay? And this is proof. You saw how sheepish those police were, yeah? He said, Articles 2, 10 and 8, take your pick. I've got no idea what the hell he's talking about, yeah? But nor do they. But it sounded good, didn't it? Right? So, the last thing about the police is that you can arrest them. Yeah? This is, you can arrest them under Section 24A of the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, 1984. You've got to tell them that they're under arrest and what they're being arrested for. The only caveat to that is that if there's any other officers there, right, they have to do the arrest, not you.
We tried that. Just blaming
Really? You tried it and... Well, funny enough, here's where I arrested 7 cops.
So I told him my position. I'm not going to be arresting the officers or taking them into custody. I'm not going to be shutting down the vaccination centre. I'm not going to be preventing people from accessing or leaving the vaccination centre to access the vaccine.
Well, as part of the being legit, you still continue with that.
You're allowing genocide.
So, as part of an ongoing live criminal investigation, okay, we have it on video evidence now. Because of the evidence that's been submitted for this crime, that you are committing an offence of misconduct in public office and perverting the course of justice.
So in that case, I'm going to have to ask you to arrest this man. Okay? I'm going to have to, sir, I'm going to have to ask you to arrest these men. So, okay? So, I'm going to have to arrest you, sir, on suspicion of misconduct in public office and perverting the course of justice. You don't have to say anything. It's on your defence if you later rely on something you failed to mention when questioned. Anything you do say will be taken in there and spin through. Okay, do you understand?
I understand what you're trying to say there.
Yeah, for us. Well, it's just for your benefit. That's not you do what you know, but yes, but I'm sorry, I'm just doing my duty as a sovereign being. Right, so you're under arrest, and I don't have to. I guess I do have to arrest each time Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't suggest that you have your repeat exactly the same thing at the beginning of the shot, but it's entirely up to you.
Under arrest.
So we have 4, 5, 6.
So
I'm gonna leave it there. Okay, so this is actually the end of the process because what happened was we went to shut down a vaccination centre. We asked before we got there. We asked the police to assist us, and if they wouldn't, then we're going to do it anyway. Yeah. So we got to the vaccination centre. There was already 3 police there waiting for us. Yeah. They refused to shut down the centre. Okay. And I was speaking to the lead copper, and I asked him outright, "Could you shut down this vaccination centre
But
down?"
weren't they only there just to keep the peace?
Yes, that's it. But they were refusing us from going in and shutting down.
Did you serve notice on them?
Sorry?
Did you serve notice on them?
No. We asked them for their help, and we said we're going to do it anyway, with or without you. So the copper refused. So I asked his colleague to arrest him. She refused. So I asked the 3rd woman police officer, right, to arrest these 2, and she refused. So we called the police. I arrested them. And I messed up the arrest caution, so I said, you know the rest. So I messed it up, but I got it out there eventually. So then we called the police to take them into custody. So these guys were a part of the 7 other police officers who turned up, and they refused to take him into custody. So I arrested them, and we called the police again, and he said, you know that no police officer is going to come down and take us into custody. Yeah, and you're going to be calling all the police out here, and it's not going to happen. So in the end, it was a stalemate as such. But I say that, but you notice he didn't disagree with us. He didn't argue. He didn't. In fact, he didn't hear it. He didn't hear it because I guess people were laughing. But he actually said, "You don't need to use the police caution. Now, it's not incumbent on you to know the police caution." So he wasn't saying you haven't arrested us. He was saying he was agreeing. Sorry?
He didn't say you were wrong.
He didn't say you were wrong. He's a sergeant as well. Okay. So.
Where does this get you though? He wouldn't
Everyone
be
does it
arrested,
in the
they
back
wouldn't be
off.
arrested, they wouldn't be arrested.
Right.
They don't comply with their own law.
This was the first salvo. Yeah. The unfortunate thing is that the whole Hammersmith thing collapsed. Right. So the next time we were going to go up there, right, I was going to arrest them again, but I was going to have cable ties.
Duct tape.
I was going to have cable ties. I was going to handcuff them and put them in the back of my car and then take them down to the station. Right? That might have ended up with me getting arrested, but I was just going to push those boundaries a bit further and see how far it goes. Yeah.
Well, Dave, we did similar with Martin.
We did it in Long Eaton, didn't we?
In Long Eaton.
Yeah.
And we went to the test centre when they're doing it in the Asda, and what we actually did when I said you were a peace officer, and what actually happened was they closed down the centre because, like I said, you put
Closed it down for the day.
Yeah, because you put them in the situation that you'd be doing a citizen's arrest if you didn't close down the centre. So in that way,
Alex,
They all rounded us.
one way, yeah. But like I said, learning a bit more.
So in they totally disregard your sovereign right to arrest them. They totally disregard that.
Well, here's the reason why they disregarded it. Because they're used to muggles. They're not used to people arresting them. Yeah? They don't know what to do. They're like, well, I'm not going to arrest them because I'm going to get in trouble with my bosses if I arrest one of our own people. No. Okay? The thing was that we were going to keep pushing the boundaries. Stay within the law, keep pushing the boundaries, and eventually one of them is going to go, there's something wrong here. The people are arresting us. There's something wrong.
Dave, that's evidence though for further down the line, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we can hold these policemen, police officers
Accountable, yeah.
accountable.
So
Yeah.
to shut down the vaccination centre, do you have to serve notice on them?
Oh
No,
yeah,
you
we
don't have
served a
to.
cease and desist notice. But the funny thing is, we got in there, somebody got in there to serve the notice, and they realised there was nobody in there. And we were there out there for an hour, and one person walked in there.
Ran out the back door.
That's it.
So, you know, we didn't even have to do it, there's only one person who said. But anyway, any further questions? No, good. Sorry?
Where do you get details on how to serve notice?
How to serve that? Okay, well, there are a lot of Telegram groups that were specifically set up for dealing with this thing, but as I said, the Hammersmith thing collapsed. I do believe that there's still one going in Yorkshire. There's still supposedly investigation going on in Yorkshire.
Northumberland.
Is it Northumberland? Northumberland, all right. So, okay, so we move on to council tax. Okay, again, everyone loves council tax, yeah? Alright, so the first thing again to remember about the council is that they're a business. They're not a local authority, yeah? They're not a public service authority. They are a business operating for profit. If you know that, you'll understand some of the decisions that they make, especially about selling property, you know, selling green space property to developers, yeah? Yeah, they're doing it because they're a business making money, yeah? Now, I got into a 50-letter back and forth with my council, yeah? And amongst those letters was this gem, where it says, council tax, which in any case is not a charge for services received. Right there in black and white, yeah? It isn't a charge for these local services whatsoever. Now, where does the money go? Well, we often get this bullshit leaflet thing that supposedly tells us how they disperse the money, yeah? And they always include a pie chart, yeah? The thing about a pie chart is it implies that 100% of the money is going out to these places, yeah? I'm saying 100%. Well, we started putting in freedom of information requests. This is going back to 2010, yeah? And this is where we found the money was going to. EU contributions and UN sustainability goals, yeah? So they're paying out to the UN for this Agenda 21 thing, yeah? The genocide in Afghanistan, Iraq and Libya, yeah? That part of the money is going to that. Offshore investment accounts. Does everybody remember back in 2010 when the Iceland Bank went down? Yeah. And all the councils went, we lost £100 million, we lost £150 million. I was like, hang on, if you've got £150 million in an offshore bank account, why am I still paying council tax? Yeah? I mean, who gets the dividends from that £150 million in that bank account? Where's that money going to go? You know, is it just sitting there? What's it for? Why haven't they told us they've got all this money? Yeah? Lots of questions. It also goes to the bloated salaries for the council executives. Maidenhead Council, where I still live, he was getting £600,000 a year. And there were still potholes in the road, yeah? Expense accounts and pension schemes. Pension schemes are a big one.
We're in Derby, and Derby has 51 councillors. They've just agreed to pay themselves just over £1 million this year.
Oh, that's nice for them, isn't it? Yeah, well, that's really nice. Yeah, I'm glad I don't do that. Yeah. So pension schemes is a big one because it turns out 25% of your council tax goes to their gold-plated pension scheme for the council workers. Yeah. Did you agree to that, by the way? No. Do you think it's in that pie chart? No, it's not. Yeah. So that pie chart's bullshit. All right. So this is the proof. In 2011, there was an investigative reporter found out that 25% of your council tax goes to their pension scheme. Right? 25%. 25%, yes. Right. Also, UK pension funds, including the council investing council tax payments, right, go towards the manufacture of cluster bombs that are being used on children in Yemen. Yeah. So it turns out, and this is this is a blow up of this bit. It's possible. It's therefore possible that those managing such investments are party to a criminal offence, and many more of us are implicated because, in a case of pension funds controlled by local authorities, the investments are made from council tax revenues. We council taxpayers, to our shame, contribute about 25 pence each to the work of firms like Textron. Textron makes cluster bombs offshore because it's illegal to make them here. Yeah? So they make cluster bombs for us to, our military to use in Yemen. Yeah? That is all it takes to incinerate a child in Yemen. Yeah? So we are contributing to that massacre that's going on over there.
And in Ukraine right now.
Sorry?
And in Ukraine right now.
And well, yeah.
No, not really.
Not that that's an actual war, but that's so what is council tax? Well, they will tell you it's a statutory instrument under the Local Government Finance Act of 1992. It's a statute. Again, requires your consent to it. There is no law obliging you to pay council tax. There's a call out there right now, everyone's calling. Yeah, show us the actual legislation that obliges anyone to pay council tax. They can't point to anything. Yeah? You don't have a contract between you and a council. So there's nothing that obliges you that makes you have to pay council tax. They don't provide you detailed accounts relating to their disbursements. Yeah? They'll give you the bullshit pie chart and lots of figures that don't mean anything. But we know, especially from that Iceland Bank thing, that no, all the money they get isn't going where they say it's going. Yeah? And the council tax bill is not a bill, according to the Bill of Exchange Act in 1882. So here's my old council tax bill. It says so at the top there. Yeah? I didn't realise at the time, but when I looked at it carefully, right, this bit here doesn't actually isn't actually a bill. It's not a statement of account, because the title, percent change the previous year. It doesn't say anything. It's just a percentage change from previous year. It's not accounting. Yeah, it looks like it's accounting, but it's not. Okay. So, according to the Bill of Exchange Act, the Bill of Exchange is an unconditional order in writing, addressed by one person to another, signed by the person giving it. Do you see a signature on there? No. Sorry? You've had it signed.
They said no, you've not signed.
Oh no. They'll never sign it because it's not really a bill. Sorry?
Are you paying council tax?
Well, I live off grid anyway, and 4 years where I lived in a house. Right, the first 2 years I got into that 50-letter battle. I never paid for 2 years, and then I moved, and I was doing no contract return to sender for 2 years. So, and I'm going to show that anyway later on. But I live off grid now, so I don't even get involved in that. So, you can ask for a true bill. They won't ever give you one. But if you think about it, if you're charged for any service, like if you go to a restaurant, yeah? So you go to a restaurant, at the end of the meal, they give you the bill. And the bill has everything that you've eaten itemised out, yeah? Everything. Now, if you see things on that bill that you didn't eat, would you pay for it? No, you say, hey, tequila, I don't even like tequila, I didn't have that, right? You don't get the choice to look through the itemised bill and see the things that you agree to or don't agree to, yeah? So they will never produce a bill because it will be evidence of fraud. Nobody's ever going to sign their name to a kind of bill, because that would be fraud and they'd be liable. Okay, so your council tax bill is merely a deceptive offer to contract. Yeah, it's up to you if you want to contract with it. And according to Halsbury's Laws of England, which is a book that judges have to read, right? Council tax is an act of extortion under colour of official right. And here's the I've given you the shortened version. So, also, there's this act called the Local Government Act of 1888. Section 79 says, and get this, all duties and liabilities of the inhabitants of the county shall become and be duties and liabilities of the council of such a county. So who's liable to pay council tax? The council. It says so in legislation that's still in force today. Yeah. If you've moved into a new area, like I did in my second lot, right, you move into a new area and the council sends you their first bill, council tax bill. What you can do is cross out the name and address in the window, yeah? Use a big thick marker pen and write no contract, return to sender, put it back in the post. Yeah? The point about that is, when they serve a document on you, right, it has to be deemed served. Now back in the past, they would serve a document by getting somebody to go up and say, oh, are you Richard?
Yes, please, I love it, thank you.
And you take it, and as soon as you touch it, you've been served. That's it. There's proof that you've received that document. But nowadays, they're lazy. They can put it in the post, and if it doesn't come back to them in 3 days, right, they can deem it served. Okay? So if you get anything, literally anything through the post, right, you can just cross it out, cross that name and address, for no contract, return to sender, put it back in the post. Yeah, if you do that within 72 hours, right, it's not deemed as served. You've not been notified of anything. Yeah?
What if you don't know, if you don't return it?
If you don't return it, then they've deemed that you've accepted it, okay, and now it's active.
So there's nothing I can do now because I've just ignored it.
If you ignore it, they deem that you've accepted the whatever their claims are, right? Then they process the whole, the wheels start turning, and they go to the next stage, and so on and so on.
So they can go back to court and make an application to court, so that the court will allow them to serve it, and if they say they've served it, the court, it will have been deemed to have been served.
No.
With that said,
Magistrates Court Act 1980 says that unless any application has been deemed served, then the process can't go forward. Yeah. So if it comes back, within the what's going on? If it comes back within the 3 days, it's unopened, then it's not served.
but if you get something through the mail, you ignore it. You get something on your pillar, you ignore it. Then they go back to court and say,
Oh yeah, so if you ignored, if you
it.
ignored it, they've deemed it as it's been served, but you've accepted it by your tacit acquiescence.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the best way if you've just moved into an area, the first foray into dealing with the council. Yeah, send it back. Eventually, they will send a bod round to hand deliver a letter to you, without a return address on it. So when it happened to me, I steamed it open, right? I was like, it's the council. So I closed it back up, crossed out, wrote across it, no contract returned to sender, and I went to their offices and posted it through their door. Yeah? And that's it, and I kept it going for 2 years, right? So, if you've been paying council tax, okay, like most people have been, right? You can use what's known as a conditional acceptance, okay? So refusal is dishonourable. Yeah, somebody, making you an offer and you refuse is kind of dishonourable, right? The best way is to agree to pay or perform, but you agree with conditions, right? As long as certain conditions are met. So this way, it stops you getting taken to court, because court is about two parties who disagree. Yeah? If you're agreeing on condition, well, there's nothing to adjudicate against. Yeah? So there's no court can take place. If they do try and take you to court, you can send in your letter process, which I'll go into in a second, and it gets thrown out because you've not disagreed. Okay? So here's the conditional acceptance. This is a structure. First thing is you have to have it, clearly stated as a title. Yeah, clearly stated. The first section is the actual acceptance. says something like, in the matter of your claim for council tax arrears, I can advise that I accept your offer to pay council tax conditional upon the following. Okay? The next section is the conditions. Okay? So here's the thing about the conditions. The conditions have to be things that they should, in all good conscience, right? They should be able to give you, but they can't because they don't exist. Okay? So in the case of vaccination, for instance, you can say, I'm happy to take the vaccine on condition that you provide me with a double-blind placebo-controlled study proving the safety and effectiveness of vaccines. Well, a doctor trying to give you a vaccine, right, should be able to provide that to you, but they can't because it doesn't exist. Okay? So it leaves you both in a stalemate position. Yeah? You're waiting for them to comply, and they can't comply, so it's like they can't move forward. So your conditions, you can have as many of them as you like, but they all have to conform to that criteria. Yeah? Things that they should be able to give you in all good conscience, but they can't because it doesn't exist. Okay? The next thing is the response requirements. So you require them to respond with an affidavit, a statement of truth, right? Under penalty of perjury, right? And then finally the expiry and consequences. So you give them an expiry date. You've got 30 days to provide me this information. If you can't provide me this information in these 30 days, then it's deemed to mean that there is no obligation for me to pay council tax. Yeah? So that's basically it, okay? I added this bit on the end. Furthermore, if you cannot provide me this information, I'll be seeking a full refund of all payments previously made. Yeah. And then, once you've got the agreement that you have no obligation to pay council tax, then you can, if you're being paid by direct debit, then you can do a direct debit indemnity clawback, right, and take your money back. Okay. So, the conditional acceptance is a 3-letter process. It's kind of a 4-letter process, but I don't go into that bit. But it's like a tennis match, yeah? So they serve their notice on you, yeah? And you respond with a notice of conditional acceptance, accepting their offer, right, on condition.
Yeah.
Right, so in the time limit you've given them, usually they're not going to respond, okay, at all. Right, so what you then send is a notice of default and opportunity to cure. And that is a notice that says, on such and such a day, I served you with notice of conditional acceptance. I gave you 30 days or whatever to provide me with the following information. You failed to respond in the time I gave you, so you're now in default. But I'm a reasonable person, so I know you're busy, so I'm going to give you another 7 days to respond. So it's you staying in honour, yeah? It's you being reasonable, okay? So you give them more time, right? Once they get that letter, they'll usually attempt a response. And that response is usually something like, yeah, you've got to pay council tax, you haven't paid yet, blah, blah, blah. Do this, do that. It's never going to be addressing the questions you've asked them, yeah? So you can, out of courtesy, respond with a notice. Now I called it a notice of non-acceptance due to lack of substance and clarification. You can say notice of bullshit response, whatever you want to say, yeah? To say that I'm not accepting what you've got to say. So that letter is something like, thank you for your letter. I note that you have not addressed the points that I've raised in my notice of conditional acceptance. You now have 4 days left. That's it. You don't have to respond to anything they've said because it's not on topic. Yeah? So once they've failed in responding to the time that you've given them in the default and opportunity to cure, you serve a notice of default and estoppel by acquiescence. The word estoppel means once you've reached an agreement, you can't go back on it. Yeah? It's set. Yeah? If they have agreed with you by their silence, now they can't later come back and say, but yeah, this and that and the other. No, you've agreed. You didn't come back with her information. I gave you plenty of time. Yeah? So that is almost game, set and match. Yeah? Once you've reached an agreement by their silence, that's it. Game over. Okay? So there's all sorts of questions you can ask. Yeah, and that's just a sampling of just some of that I came up with. But as I said, they all have to follow the pattern that there are things that they should be able to give you but can't because they either don't exist or they'll be embarrassing to reveal, or embarrassing or fraudulent for them to reveal it. Yeah? So again, you can, I've just given you a few there, but you can come up with anything you like. So here's a notice of conditional acceptance. Dear Mr. Willie Sanker, in the matter of your claim for council tax arrears, it comes to my attention that there is no lawful obligation incumbent upon me to pay council tax, and that I have been mistakenly paying you in error. Furthermore, I've become aware that monies raised by council tax go in part towards military operations in Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Somalia and Yemen. I have reasonable cause to suspect that crimes against humanity, war crimes and or terrorism are or may be committed by HMN government and HM Armed Forces, as defined in Articles 6, 7 and 8 of the International Criminal Court Act 2001. Therefore, if I knowingly continue to contribute to council tax, then I would be guilty of committing a crime by aiding and abetting acts of terrorism according to the Terrorism Act, Section 15. In light of this information, I'd be happy to continue paying council tax and settling any arrears due, conditional upon the following. That you can demonstrate that there is a contract between the council and me, David the Murphy family, and not Mr. David Murphy, the person in corporation. That you can demonstrate manifestation of intent by way of my signature on a contract between us. That the terms and conditions of that contract are lawful, that council tax is lawful. That the council have given full disclosure of the services being offered and that these have been accepted by me. And this is the big one. That you can categorically prove that no monies that are raised by council tax go to fund HM Armed Forces or any military operations in Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Somalia and Yemen. I now demand that all of the above conditions are met, presented in affidavit format, sworn under oath or attestation, under penalty of perjury, and upon your full commercial liability. If I don't receive such a response conforming to the above criteria within 30 days, it will be deemed a tacit agreement by your acquiescence that I have no obligation to pay council tax. And that line that I said earlier, if you can't provide me the information, I will be seeking a refund of all money previously made. So, the point is, okay, the main point of that is that you're saying it seems like I'll be committing an offence, I'll be breaking the law if I help you fund this war effort, yeah? So can you show me that I'm not breaking the law? That's what you're saying, you know? So unless they can prove, and they can't prove that the money isn't going, especially when you go back to
pie chart.
not the pie chart. Where is it? This one. Yeah, in the papers showing that 25p is going to cluster bombs. Yeah, you can actually include the newspaper article. So this is what this is the proof I've got that I'm helping kill children in Yemen. Yeah. So prove to me I'm not breaking the law, and then I'll continue paying council tax. Yeah. So I feel that's the best way of dealing with it because they've got no way to go. Yeah. Okay.
But in the council, they're arrogant. So they're going to send you warrants and all that stuff. But do you just ignore their courts?
Well, here we're just about to go on to it. So the next stage. So the next stage is fake court. Yeah. Turns out that the council issues summonses themselves. Yeah. And what they do is they hire the courtroom, outside of court hours, and they hire a solicitor to pretend to be a judge, and they pretend to issue liability orders. That's it. Okay. So you can actually phone up the court, right, and say, can I have information about this court case on such and such a day? And I'll say, we've got no information about it. Go and speak to the council. Because the court has got nothing to do with it. They rent the room and they hire a judge or a solicitor to pretend to be a judge.
But
Okay?
it's not stamped by us, are they?
Sorry?
It's not stamped by us, or
No.
Yes.
It is breaking the law, okay?
I was in court about 4 weeks ago in Nottingham, Nottingham's Magistrates Court, supporting a resident of Rushbury Council who was in Suffolk. And what we observed, the court case, the hearing was supposed to be at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But just prior to that, a number of people turned up, about 3 or 4 people turned up that had been summoned. And immediately council officers pounced on them, took them away to one side, and persuaded them not to go into the court hearing.
Yes.
There were 9 of us. We all went in and sat in the public gallery, and we watched the council solicitor engage with the judge, not magistrates, a judge on his own.
Was it a judge?
Who knows? And it was simply a case of, I have a bundle here with 938 defaulters, and I want a liability order placed on them.
Yeah.
The judge agreed, and then there was some sort of discussion about another £95 the council wanted to add on to each case. He discussed that for a while and eventually agreed it. And then she came, the hearing finished, and the council solicitor walked out, and I followed her out into the corridor, and I said to her, are the liability orders available now to take away, or will they be posted on later? And she said, exact words, there are none.
Yeah. Exactly. And this is the thing, yeah? What you said is quite right. What will happen, if you turn up to this case, okay, because it will say on the summons, yeah, you do not have to attend. Yeah, because they know most people aren't going to attend. If people are afraid of court, they won't turn up. Yeah, if you do turn up, first thing that's going to happen is the council worker will say, "Come into the side office and let's have a chat." Yeah, and they'll try and get you to contract with them and pay something. You know, they'll say, "Oh yeah, just pay us £5 a week. That'll do. Whatever." Yeah, but if you do, then you've contracted with them and you're liable to pay, right? If you fail to come to agreement with them and you go into the courtroom, what will happen is they'll say, sorry Mr. Murphy, we've got so much on our docket, we can't see you today. So we'll schedule a case later on. Yeah? And
the only reason for that hearing is for the council solicitor to get the judge's ruling that the council have issued the bills. That's the only thing that hearing is for. It's for nothing else. If you're a debtor and you go into that court, you will not get a hearing because it's there for a sole purpose. Have the council serve the notices of the bills, and that's it.
I know, because the reason I know is because the same thing happens if you go into court over a utility bill. Yeah, or if you go to court over, there's something else as well, but the yeah, I can't remember what it is. But yes, the utility companies hire the court as well.
So you guys just not turning up?
Well, what I did, right, and I can't remember if it was council tax or utility bills. I can't remember which one it was, but I went in and they said, "Oh, sorry, yeah, we're going to adjourn it, and you come back next week." Okay, I said, "Thank you, Your Honour," and I sat down. And they sat there and they looked at each other for a few seconds and said, "Oh, he's not going. Mr. Murphy, you can leave. It's next week." I said, "Yeah, thank you." Oh yeah, it was the electricity company. That's right. Yeah, I said, "Yeah, thank you." And they went, "Okay, what's the next case?" "Oh, it's Mr. Jones." "Oh, what happens in that case then?" He hasn't paid. Yeah, and I made them I sat there and I made them go through 4 cases where it's obvious they didn't know what the hell they were doing. Right? But they went through and pretended to go through 4 cases.
So what happens when you don't turn up then?
If you don't turn up, they just rubber stamp these things and off it goes. Yeah, it's a fake process. The whole thing is
When you
fake.
don't turn up, they just continue with what they're doing.
When I went there, I got to the desk, and there was a security guard there. I said, yeah, I've got a case, today at 2 o'clock. He said, court's finished, mate. I said, well, I've got this case at 2 o'clock. No, mate, court runs from this time 10 till whatever. I said, he goes, oh no, it's shut, but let me go and ask. He went away. He came back and went, court 4. It's like, okay. So it turns out, yeah, after court business is over, now the hired court, so it's not actually court, it's never court. So any warrants or orders or whatever, they're null and void, they're not real, okay? So this is what's in Halsby's Laws of England, The law is absolutely clear on this subject. There is no authority for administrative courts in this country, and no act can be passed to legitimise them. If a court doesn't have a jury, it is an administrative court. And this is saying they have no standing whatsoever. And it goes on. The collection of revenue by such means is extortion. And now it specifically mentions council tax. We find, for example, that in council tax regulations, the billing authority, the prosecuting authority, and the enforcement authority are all vested in the same body. That means the council are pretending to be, well, the billing authority, they're pretending to be the court, and they also have got a department that are collection agents. So they pretend to be the collection agency as well. It's all a one-stop shop. A total conflict of interest.
Is that, Dave, is that the Halsby's Law 2011, the breaking of 2006 Fraud Act?
Yes.
Yes. Because
It's what, 2015?
is it because I know you just said that, but is it also because you should be able to get a jury if you wish?
Yes, you've always got the right to always. That's part of the British Constitution. If they deny that, it's treason.
So if they said you'd committed whatever offence, anyway, say you've broken, you've done, you've been out in public and you've done, make any law of the police, and would you actually go to the court hearing? Would you go there and say, what would you say?
No, I deal with
with letters.
Summons, with paperwork before it even gets there.
Okay.
Yeah. Here's another thing, and you can't read it, but this is again the Local Government Act 1888, It says under section 78, provided the transfer of powers and duties enacted by this Act shall not authorise any county council or committee or member thereof to exercise any of the powers of a court of record. To exercise any jurisdiction under the Summary Justice Jurisdiction Act, or perform any judicial business, or otherwise act as justices or justices of the peace. So it's saying specifically they cannot pretend to be a court. But that's what they're doing. Okay?
How do we get away with it?
Because of our ignorance.
But if they're breaking all these laws, surely they should be prosecuted.
Until around about 2008, right? Nobody in this country was looking at these things. There was nobody. Everybody was believing everything that was presented to us.
By authority?
Yeah. Everyone believed it until the free man on the land movement, where people started looking at these things and going, bloody hell, it says they can't do this, And that's just the thing. We're coming out of our ignorance. We're starting to go, we're starting to be adults now. Right? This system keeps us as children, right? And says, pats us on the head, so don't worry, just believe us. We know what we're doing, And they keep us as children. And this is our time to become adults and be responsible for ourselves.
But we need people like you to push them in that direction.
Well, there's lots of people.
Because we're not going to just...
Who do you know in Derby that's like you?
Well,
Billy!
Sadly, to a certain extent.
Listen, we've got a
They
room
got
full of
rich,
people
yeah.
like me. All you need now is a little experience, a little courage. You're going to be just like, just like me and just like Billy and that, and standing up to these
Yeah, and
things.
Rich.
Yeah?
Let's put them in.
You just got to get rid of the fear.
Yes.
That's all you've got to do, get rid of the fear.
Fear, Martin. Do it.
Yeah, that's what it is.
This is
But
the
it's
thing.
about knowledge as well, though, isn't it? It's not, for some people, it's not the fear, it's having the knowledge.
That's what we're here for.
Again, not necessarily.
You're intimidating.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're obtaining the knowledge now.
The thing
Trust
is,
me, it is.
the
It's down
thing
to
is,
fear. That's
all
all it
it
is.
takes is the will to stand up to it. It doesn't matter if you get it wrong. The fact you standing up against it. Yeah. Has anybody heard of the bystander effect? Yeah. The bystander effect is if somebody collapses on the street, is lying on the floor in a pool of blood. Yeah. Most people are going to step past that person, pretend they're not there, yeah, and walk past until someone goes, "Are you all right?" And then everybody comes to help, yeah, right? This is the effect we need to start. If people see you go, "No, I'm not paying that," most people now suddenly go, "Oh, I can do that," and they'll follow suit. And this is it. It doesn't matter if you get it wrong. It doesn't really matter if everything goes pear-shaped and you end up having to pay anyway. Yeah? You stood up to them. Yeah?
But then they tend to target you when you do.
Right, but
I've been targeted. I took the chief constable on. I sued him for misfeasance in a public office. And I won. And he has to pay me £20,000. But I've spent the next few years, a target to the police.
right,
Because
good.
of what I did.
You know what? This life isn't.
Well done.
This
yeah.
life. Oh yeah, okay. This
Good on you,
life
girl.
isn't about being comfortable and dying, quietly in your bed at 80 years old.
No.
But they do
No.
target you.
Sorry.
They do target you.
Then that's
Good.
harassment.
But
You're
no,
targeted
it's
anyway.
not harassment. I've got no protection
You're
from the police. That's what it
targeted
means.
You've got protection for.
No, I haven't.
There is rapid response in Derby,
Yeah.
right? I started it, and Michael here pretty much runs it, right? The situation is that when bailiffs and corporations come to your house, all you've got to do is be on that site, say the word, and we turn up.
Yes, you do.
We stand up to these bullies.
Well done.
We're also doing something called peace constables.
Yeah. That's what Dave's does.
So where do we
Get
find
yourself
out?
on the
It's on
common
Telegram.
law.
Okay.
Get yourself on the common law peace constable course.
I am.
There's not one in Nottinghamshire. People
Maybe
are
it's
asking me
one
to
mile
set
in
them
Derby,
up,
right?
but I'm a very busy man and I can't
I know
get.
with you
I
with
do a
Derby,
lot
you're
of
not
stuff
gonna
in
come to
Derby.
Nottinghamshire.
But other people can set them up, they can just do it themselves. But this has been going since January, and there's a lot of activity going on there. But me personally, and others, we turn up at people's houses. I spent 8 hours at Zoe's house. Second.
Okay.
Sorry, mate, carry on.
Let's continue. Yeah. So yeah, I want to get to it. Yeah. Dear Mr. Richard Head, on receipt of your summons dated blah blah blah, having contacted the magistrates court, I was informed that it's in fact the council who issued the summons, which is fraud by misrepresentation under the Fraud Act 2006 Section 2. As only a court justice of peace can issue a summons according to the following legislation. And there's all the legislation. Your summons does not appear to be signed, which would render it unlawful even if it were real. So I require you to provide me with the name and job title of the individual who authorised the issue of these summonses. So now you're going on the attack. Yeah? Anyone they name is now guilty of fraud. Okay? However, I would be happy to attend your unlawful private administrative hearing. My charges for this service are one-off payment of £3,000 plus a consultation fee of £150 a minute and £150 inconvenience fee. Please advise me in writing if you intend to proceed and thus accept my terms and conditions, including the full name, job title and address of the individual responsible for issuing council tax summonses, and enclosing a cheque or money order for £3,150. Failure to do so within 7 days will be deemed to mean that the case has been withdrawn and my offer has been rejected. Please note, should my offer be rejected and you decide to proceed in my absence, you will incur the £3,150 fees, and should a liability order be placed with me, that should be I hereby notify you that my charge to service any such orders is £10,000. If they can do business with you, you can do business with them. Okay? So, moving on to bailiffs. So we're probably running out of time, I think. But going on to bailiffs, yeah, and debt collectors. Well, they're all debt collectors. You'll never ever really come up against a bailiff. Right? They're all debt collectors. Thing to remember is, again, TV shows create the illusion of power and authority. Does anybody watch this? Can't pay, will take it away. You do realise that a lot of the scenarios you see on there are crisis actors.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
They're actually suing their own bosses now, aren't they? Because they haven't been paid.
Right. I don't watch the thing, so yeah. But the point is, it's an illusion of power and authority. They don't have all the things that they appear to have in these TV shows. Yeah, they've got no power whatsoever unless you give it to them. And one way they get you to give them power is they might say something like, yeah, give us £1 a month. That's all, just £1 a month. Yeah. If you start paying them, now you've agreed that you owe them something, and they're going to come after you for the full amount. Yeah, because you've now gotten into contract with them to pay them. Right? They are third-party interlopers interfering with your private financial affairs. It's like me coming up to you and go, "Oi, you owe me 50 quid, pay up." Yeah, so what do you say? You're like, who are you? I don't know who you are, I don't have a contract with you, you know?
Well, so, they don't do that, do they? They come and say, oh, we sell so-and-so here.
Yeah. Somebody, you know, somebody come up to you, is your name Angela or whatever? Yeah? Why are you asking? Who are you? You know?
I'm just saying, because I had, when I took my house on, obviously the people who were there before, they bailed and left loads of debt. And there was always coming and ringing and sending letters, and it's like, and the bailiffs were non-stop for about 3 years. And I'm like, no, prove it. And they kept saying, can you prove it? I'm like, no, I can't prove it.
Yeah.
I can't prove that I'm not there.
Letters not known at this address, whatever. Yeah. Okay, so they'll also often say, we've got a warrant. Yeah. Well, they don't, because warrants have to be signed and sealed. Yeah. And this is the legislation that says they have to be signed and sealed. Yeah. Companies Act, section 44 and 45. It says that for a document to be executed properly, it needs to have a seal or a signature. Right? Procedure rules, criminal procedure rules. Every warrant under the Magistrates Court Act 1980 must be signed by the justice issuing it. Yeah. So essentially, it has to be signed. It has to be sealed. And a court seal is like that. Yeah. This is not a court seal. This is just a stamp. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes you'll just get the embossed bit, not the wax. But that is a seal, and it's very rare that you'll ever see one. Okay, because they don't often issue them. Right? I've seen one of these stamps that just had a fake version of the Crown, and you just said the court. Yeah. It has no validity whatsoever. But if a bailiff says, right, well, I've got a warrant and this is a court warrant and you've got to pay, well, if it isn't signed or sealed, well, now they're liable under the County Courts Act 1984, section 135, falsely pretending to act under the authority of a court. I think it has a 14-year prison sentence, 7-year prison sentence. Yeah. They can't come in unless you open the door to them. Yeah. So opening a door is an implication that you're inviting them in, and they're acting on that implication. Yeah, as soon as you open the door, you're saying, "Come on in." Yeah, that's how they got the authority to jam their foot in the door. Yeah, okay. But you can explicitly remove that implication. Okay, I'll show you how later on. The thing is, they pretend that they're acting under the authority of somebody else. They're acting under the authority of the bank or whatever. Okay. Truth is, what they've done, they've gone to the bank and said, have you got any outstanding debts? And they'll say, yes, Richard owes £1,000. They said, okay.
And the rest.
And the rest. So they go, okay, £1,000. Okay, we'll buy that debt for a tenner. And the bank goes, okay, free money, we'll have that. Okay, so now the company goes to Richard and say, okay, you owe us £1,200 now, with our costs as well. And they try and intimidate you to pay up. Right? Because it's free money for them. They've laid out a tenner, and they stand to get, 1,200 quid.
So do you know if it's sealed by the real stamp? Is it still the same process?
What do you mean? If it's got that seal?
Yeah.
You won't get it.
If you ever see that,
You're in deep.
that means it's a high court. Right, that's doing. And yes, there are different rules for a high court, and yeah, a lot of the times you've got no choice. But you'll never ever see that. That's very, very rare. Okay. If you see that instead, it's bullshit. Okay.
If you see the seal, you've done something wrong, haven't you?
Yeah. So the point is that the debt collector has paid your debt off because the bank has accepted £10 for a £1,000 debt. So your debt's been paid off. So thank you very much. Should have asked me first, before if I'm going to pay you back. But you didn't, so I'm not. Yeah. So you don't have a contract with them. They've got no proof of agency. They can't prove they're acting as an agent for anyone. All they did was buy the debt. Yeah. So don't contract with them. Don't accept their paperwork. Okay. There's some case law that says, Grove versus Eastern Gas, 1952. Bailiffs cannot force their way into a private dwelling. Yeah. So they can't do that. There's also something called castle doctrine. Okay. So it comes from this idea that an Englishman's home is his castle, which means you're allowed to defend your castle, your property, using reasonable force up to and including deadly force. Yeah? So, I don't know if I've got a picture of my reasonable force, but here's some case law that goes with this. Yeah? Lewis versus Laurie. If a bailiff enters by force, he's there unlawfully, and you can treat him as a trespasser. Yeah, Lewis versus Owen. It's not contempt to assault a bailiff trying to climb over a locked gate after being refused entry. Yeah. Regina versus Tucker, 2012. If a debtor strikes a bailiff after making a forced entry, the debtor is not guilty of assault because the bailiff was there illegally. Yeah. Davis versus Lyle, 1936. If a person strikes a trespasser who has refused to leave, he's not guilty of offence. So, if you've told the bailiff to leave and he doesn't, you can beat the shit out of him.
Hallelujah.
Nothing is going to come of
documentation.
Sorry?
Wasn't there just a new ruling on that?
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. So, to remove the implied right they have to come into your place, you can actually put a notice of removal of implied right of access by your front door, or better still, by your front gate. Yeah, if you've got one. Okay. So it basically says that you're removing the implied right of access explicitly for your place, and these are the people it applies to. These are the people it applies to. It says, any and all access to the above mentioned properties shall be by strict invitation only and subject to the terms and conditions available on written request. Any permission you believe you may have from me is hereby withdrawn. If you believe you have power of attorney to act on my behalf, you are hereby fired, and any consent you believe you have, tacit or otherwise, is hereby withdrawn. Please note, and this is the teeth. If you violate this notice, then you agree to pay £10,000, and are hereby notified that castle doctrine shall be invoked, and reasonable force, up until and including deadly force, shall be used to defend this home, its inhabitants, and/or their property. Yeah? You have the common law right to defend your property. Yeah. So Lambert versus Roberts, 1981, basically said Placing such a notice is akin to a closed door, and it also prevents a bailiff entering the garden or driveway. Yeah? So they can't even enter your garden. If you've got the notice by your front door, they can come to the door and read the notice, but if they don't turn around and walk away, right, now, you know, they're breaking the law, okay? So as somebody said over there was a case this year, right, a guy called Robert White, who was being evicted, and the police basically burst in and tasered the guy and punched him and stuff, and they tried to charge him with assault. And the jury acquitted him, and the ruling in that case, and here's the new case law, the police sergeant had unlawfully entered the defendant's home and was essentially a trespasser and an unwelcome intruder. It did not matter that the sergeant was a police officer. The defendant was entitled to remove him with reasonable force.
But what happened to the police officer?
They've been reprimanded.
Yeah, slap on the wrist, but yeah. So, again, you have the right to use reasonable force to defend your property. So, I'm actually going to get 2 baseball bats, yeah? With reasonable force. This is what I'm going to. Can you read that, sir? This is what I'm going to use if you try and take my property. And if necessary, I'm going to use my other baseball bat. So a bit of deadly force if you need it. Okay. So. Most times, a lot of times, you'll find that when the police arrive, right, they'll try and help the debt collectors. Always. The reason why is because they get a cut of the debt collectors. Yeah. They literally get a cut of the debt collectors. So, the thing is, they are bound by some legislation. Okay. Criminal Justice and Courts Act 2015, Section 26, is an abuse of position by a police constable causing another to suffer a loss for the benefit of a third party. So if they act for a bailiff, right, they're actually now breaching this, and I think it has 14 years in jail as a prison sentence.
Yeah. Okay, so now the one who got tasered,
yeah,
he's actually doing that to the police officers.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's what he's doing, he's taking a case out against them.
Yeah. So,
would that apply as well to a constant police enforcer aiding and abetting somebody towing the vehicle?
Yeah, causing you a loss. Yeah? If he's helping them, right, you can just remind them of this, okay? Because, you know, they have to say, you know, they can only get involved in criminal matters. If it's a civil matter, right, they can't get involved. Exactly, right? And you know what? If it's something that they don't want to get involved in, they'll very quickly say, it's a civil matter. Yeah? But here, they're standing to make a gain, so they won't say it unless you force it.
The reason I asked you that, David, it happened to me last week. Somebody's trying to turn my vehicle away. Or my private conveyance, should I say. Now, I refused, and there was he was aiding and abetting my constables because the colour police. Put the clamps under the wheels, and I got in the car because I can't put it on the back of the tow truck if I'm sitting in the car. But this constable lunged at me through the empty window. Grabbed hold of me, chucked a cuff on. You can see the damage still there, though. It was only last week. And he arrested me in the end. I said, yeah, I said to this, look, yeah, exactly. I said, prior to this, I said, all you can act as here is a peace between the two parties. You know, this is a civil matter, it's not a criminal matter, but he still attacked me after.
Well, here's the thing, you've got to stand them down straight away. If they turn up and they start talking, hang on, it sounds like you're acting for this bailiff. You're helping this bailiff. You do realise, according to Section 26 of the Criminal Justice Courts Act, right, that makes you liable. That's 14 years in jail. Are you sure you want to do that?
You need to carry that around with you.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's only about a handful, maybe 12 acts that you need to remember. Yeah? If you remember 12 acts, yeah, you'll become dangerous to bailiffs and police officers.
Anyway, that was just told you, they put me in a cell 12 hours here. They took me down, arrested me, and took me in the cell for 12 days for trying to stop somebody taking my vehicle.
Yeah, because they just got me out of the way.
Yeah.
And I was probably justified by calling it a breach of peace. Yeah. But,
Well, I got something to film it so they can see the
okay, but the point is that you stop them before they even get to that point.
I did do, but he didn't even know he's a public servant. He's not a public servant because none of them know anything of that sort.
Okay, but if you know,
Yes,
if you know that,
I'll just wrote it down. Yes.
and say, look, you're liable. Are you sure you want to do that? Because it sounds like you're helping the bailiff.
I actually told him before. So look, you only use it to keep the peace between no violence for the two parties.
If you don't get any remedy for him, he doesn't accept it. Get your sergeant down here, because he'll know. Yeah? Right? And that's it. You don't let the grunt, yeah, try and assert himself beyond his authority. Get your supervisor down here. Yeah? And he'll know that all they can do is prevent a breach of the peace. That's it.
You need to know your rights.
Yeah.
Terry, are you going to sue him? The policeman? Are you going to sue the policeman personally? Personally sue him?
Would you, in that case there, Dave, would you sue the constable? Would you sue the chief constable?
All of them.
I've gone after the chief constables.
Yeah, because of all the public
Queen actually just move on.
I'm sorry, mate. Yeah, of course.
Because, you know,
Yeah, I'm sorry, mate. Sorry.
If you want to, please don't try and bring in your personal cases, because we end up, talking about personal cases and it's not interesting for everyone.
Apologies, Dave.
Yeah, just for. So I'll just say very quickly that this was. So this was actually the first letter I ever wrote, because I was scared about getting involved in this, and I thought, well, I've got this debt for $39.90. I thought if it all goes pear-shaped, then it's no big deal, yeah. So all I said was, and I'll just skip past this bit. However, in order to verify this debt, please provide me with a copy of lawful two-party contract signed by both myself and a representative of Gem Recovery Systems that forms the basis for the obligation to pay. I said, give me this information within 7 days. And that's it. Simple, and literally they went away. Yeah. And that was it. Like, I thought, bloody hell, it works. And that's what started me off on all this, yeah? Because knowing that, before I've been scared of a debt collector. I thought they had power. I thought they could do stuff. But as soon as I challenged it and they went away, it was like, the fear's gone now. Yeah?
Excuse me, what would you do if you got a text message?
Ignore it.
Ignore it.
Yeah, a text message.
I got one this week.
A text message has no legal power. Yeah, it's just a text message. Your phone might not be working. You might have lost your phone.
The thing is, I believe it's council tax for a house that I sold 3 years ago. I believe.
It's a text message. Ignore it. Ignore it. It's a text message. Right. So another. Again, I kind of covered this earlier. Right, but this is literally dealing with the fact that they paid your debt off. Okay. Literally by buying that debt, your debt's been extinguished. Okay. So I'm not really going to go through it, but it's saying that before involving yourselves, you failed to check the amount was owed. It wasn't. That I'm the debtor. I'm not. That I agreed to pay you back. I didn't. Yeah. That anyway, you're attempting to take the piss because your actual outlay would have been 10% or less than your demand to me. Yeah. So I actually put this up again. When I put up a template letter, I don't expect you to go and copy it exactly, yeah, and just send it. I expect you to look at that template letter, read it, understand how it works, write your own, right? Because they're set up for recognizing a template, and they'll go, "Oh, you just got that off the internet. You're a muggle. You don't know what you're doing," and it will get harder for you. If you write it in your own words, yeah, then it's more powerful. Nonetheless, somebody who had this debt of £200 copied that last one word for word. Yeah? And I was like, no, you shouldn't have done that. But he did it, and eventually he got this letter. Thank you for contacting us. We've had a look at your account, and good news, we've made the decision to write off your outstanding balance and close your account. So it worked, even though I said don't do that. It worked. Yeah.
You need a basis, a legal basis, don't you?
For
these letters. You need the legal template that you're putting forward.
Well, it's not. This isn't as such a legal template. The only thing about
it's not a legal template, but it's a template.
To understand what's going on,
yeah.
okay? And as I said, I tell people, don't just copy this, yeah? Just understand that, this spirit of what's going on here, yeah? And use your own words, okay? But as I said, this guy didn't. He just used the template, straight as it was, and yet he'd still got it written off, okay? So yeah, I'm still running out of time. How much time have I got? Just keeping time.
What you got left to do? What you got left to do on your presentation?
I have about 20 slides left.
20 slides?
Yeah.
Where's so what subjects?
Money and banks.
Let's do it quick.
Okay.
We'll all have to shut up then, won't we?
Oh, yeah. Shut up, everyone. Shut up.
It's going to benefit everyone.
Dealing with banks, okay? So when a bank lends you money, where does that money come from?
Your signature.
You, yes. That money comes straight from you. Right? So it's legalized bank fraud, yeah? You've been educated to believe that banks have money, yeah? Banks create credit from your promises to pay, yeah? So when you get a loan, right, they give you a loan agreement, right? That loan agreement has an amount of money, has a date when you're supposed to pay it back, and when you sign it, it's now got your signature on it. Yeah? You've just created a promissory note. Yeah? You promise to pay back usually about 3 times the amount. Yeah? Now that promissory note is worth, money. It's worth 3 times the face value. Okay? So what the bank does, they take that loan agreement and they cash it. They take that agreement and then they tie into your account the amount on there. Okay, that's it. And you work your ass off for the next 20 years or whatever for somebody doing this. They didn't give you anything. They gave you invisible credit in their banking system. That what we all believe is real. Okay? And you work your ass off to produce physical assets to give them for that. Okay? That's the fraud. The further fraud is that loan agreement is also the security for the loan. Okay? Because that's the actual money, that loan agreement, the promissory note. Right? But it's written on security paper. And it becomes a security. And the bank sells it on the securities market. So the point is, there is no evidence of a loan anymore because it's gone. They've sold it. It's kind of like if I wanted to borrow £1,000 off you, yeah, and I gave you my granddad's gold watch as security, yeah. So you take my granddad's gold watch, and I'm coming with my first payment to you, and I say, can I see my granddad's gold watch? And you say, oh, here's a photocopy. Will you accept that? Or should I accept the photocopy? No. Right? I say, well, no, I'd like to see my gold watch. And you say, I've sold it. Well, now, do I have to pay you anything? No. The security is gone. She sold the security. I don't have to pay her anything. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah? Well, here's the thing. Your promissory note that you created has now been sold. It is not only the security for the loan, it's the only evidence there was a loan in the first place. So if you find out that the security is no longer there, do you have to pay it back? No, Dave. Okay. No, you don't, because now there's no evidence there was a loan. And the fact is there wasn't a loan. All it was invisible credit within the banking system. Okay. So the Bank of England says it outright. Yeah. In one of their quarterly bulletins, it says banks extend credit by simply increasing the borrowing customer's current account. That's it. That's them making money. Just right there. If we did that, we'd get put in prison. Yeah. But now this is banking practice. Yeah. There's something more about this banking swindle. Okay. So imagine there's no money in the world. Okay. And I borrow £1,000 from the bank. Okay. And I spend that £1,000 into the world. Now there's a pile of £1,000 in the world. But I owe £1,200 with interest. How am I going to pay £1,200 if there's only £1,000 in the world? Well, let's sack the juggler. Now imagine that Richard, right, also borrows the £1,000 from the bank, and he spends £1,000 into the world. Right? Now there's £2,000 in the world, right? Now, if I'm a savvy businessman, right, I manage to claw back out of the world £1,200 and I pay off my debt, okay? How does Richard pay off his debt? Because now there's only £800 in the world, right? He fails to pay his debt, the bank comes in, takes all his stuff, yeah, now he's bankrupt, yeah? It's a rigged game. The game is so big we don't see it happening. But if anybody pays off their debt, somebody else loses out. Yeah? It's a huge game of musical chairs. Somebody pays their debts, a chair gets removed. Okay? So it's shown in this game. But nobody ever sees it because nobody ever finishes this game. Now the point is, everyone thinks that the game ends when the last person's left with money. But that's not the end of the game. What would happen if that player carries on playing on his own? What's going to happen in the end? He'll lose all the money because everything on that board is taking money from him. Yeah? So who's the real winner in that game? The bank. The game is rigged, so the bank always wins. But we don't see it because we never finish the game. Right? The world we're in is a rigged game, so the bank always wins. Right? This is what we're seeing now. The bank owns everything, pretty much. Okay? So, how do we deal with debts? Again, a simple letter. Dear Mr. Thief, I'm currently performing an audit of my financial obligations, as I've found I may be the victim of fraud and financial malfeasance. And while I'm sure that your reputable company would not be party to such misdeeds, I nonetheless feel I must be rigorous in my investigation into this matter. I agree to settle any financial obligation I might lawfully owe on condition that I receive the following documentation from you. Validation of thieving banks, valuable consideration pertaining to the alleged debt in the form of actual accounting of its losses. The bank never lost anything. It never gave you anything. It just gave you invisible digits. Yeah? No losses, no accounting. But they should be able to give you accounting if they lost something. Because we believe they gave us something, so they must have lost something. Verification of your claim against me. A sworn affidavit or hand-signed invoice in accordance with Bill of Exchange Act. Well, nobody's going to sign their name on an invoice because it's fraud. Yeah? A copy of the contract signed by both parties and therefore binding both parties. Your loan agreement, only you sign it. So they can't provide that either. Proof of claim that the funds advanced myself were Thieving Bank's assets from the outset and were neither created for Thieving Bank by signature, promise or promissory note, nor were they created upon Thieving Bank's books by mere bookkeeping entries, as per Bank of England quarterly report. Okay? They can't prove that because that's exactly how it was done. Yeah? Proof of claim that Thieving Bank risked any of its assets regarding the creation of this loan. If that's not the case, please prove that this was fully disclosed to the account holder. Neither of those are true. Okay? Proof of claim that any contract with any element of fraud or deception is not null and void. their contract is null and void because it is all exception.
Yeah.
Okay. You give them 14 days, and this note at the back, at the bottom here, if anybody's harassing you on the telephone, you can put this little paragraph in. I wish to deal with this matter in writing. Don't give your organisation permission to contact me by telephone. I must warn you that any calls could constitute harassment and renders you liable under Section 1 of the Protection of Harassment Act 1997. Yeah, that will stop them. If you're getting harassed by telephone calls, that will stop them in their tracks.
Can you use that for mortgage?
Sorry?
Can you use that for mortgage?
Well, you can. You can
Have
say,
you
I
done
want
that?
to deal with this in writing, and they have to. Yeah. So this is somebody who used that same sort of letter with credit cards. Okay, and this is the response they got, and it's quite funny. We appreciate that under Section 78 of the Consumer Credit Act, if you decide not to meet your obligations under the card agreement, as they fall to you, we will be unable to take steps to enforce the repayment by court action. Nevertheless, we expect you to meet your obligations under the agreement. So we can't enforce this, but please pay us anyway, you know? So they make a little threat at the end here. If you don't make card repayments, as they fall to you, we'll report your default to the credit reference agencies. Well, if they do that, all you need to do is say, I query this one. Right? Now the credit reference agencies have to prove there was a debt, and they can't, so it goes away. Yeah. So yes, again, very quickly, maybe I'm going to have to skip some of these. So I'm going to skip this because so much I need to talk about. But fine. I literally don't have time. Honestly. So promissory notes, very quickly. Yeah. This is a promissory note. The notes in your pocket are a promissory note. Somewhere on it has, I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of £20. Yeah. So this is a promissory note, right? You can write your own promissory notes. Yeah. This is a note that I created, right? And I used it when I went to court to see how I'd do against a judge, and he basically ran away with it and ended up fining me £895. I sent him a promissory note and then cover note to the clerk of the court, appointing him as my fiduciary, which is my employee, you know, to pay my debts for me. And I said, you know, settle this matter. Here's the money. So this note says, I promise to pay the bearer sum of, and it says, subsequent to the Bank of England having honoured their promise on their banknotes. So that answers the question. People say, what if you give them a promissory note and they come to you and say, where's my money? Here's the promissory note, where's my money? Well, yeah, I'll pay you your money when the Bank of England pays up on their notes. Yeah? Because there's no money. Yeah? You used to be able to go to the bank with the Bank of England with your £20 and say, give me my money. And they'd weigh out some silver and give you it. Yeah? But now if you go to the Bank of England and say, give me my money, my £20, they'll give you 2 tens and kick you out. And then more than likely lock the door behind and call the police. Because they're terrified of people finding out that this is all a fraud.
Did that work?
Yes.
It did
Absolutely.
work. So I've got a court case in 2 weeks.
Okay, well, give me a shout and I'll send you the letter I sent to the clerk.
Yeah, please.
So the difference on my promissory notes is that I put space for 3 witnesses to sign. It seems to have a bit more power that you've got 3 witnesses signing that they've seen you sign it. Yeah. So it's very powerful. Now this is the ruling in a court case about promissory notes. We've repeatedly said in this court that a bill of exchange or promissory note is to be treated as cash. It is to be honoured unless there's some good reason to the contrary. Yeah. So it is, you know, a promissory note is cash, just as much cash as a note, the banknotes in your pocket. Somewhere there's a signature for somebody in the Bank of England on it that's promising to pay you something, but they've never told you what they're going to pay you because there's nothing behind it. Now here's a little thing, a newspaper clipping that I got sent to me about a man in Ireland who paid off his sister's mortgage with a promissory note, right? He argued that in 2010, the Irish finance minister, he went on television, on live television, and he wrote out a promissory note to the Anglo-Irish Bank. Right, this is when all the banks were going down, yeah? He wrote out a promissory note for 31 billion euro, yeah? Gave it to the Anglo-Irish Bank, and then they started trading again on the strength of this promissory note that he wrote out. So he argued that if he can do it, well, I can too. So he wrote out a promissory note to pay off his sister's mortgage, and they went to court, and the registrar, and he quoted the Bill of Exchange Act and Lord Denning's ruling, and the registrar said it was a valid defence. Right? Now, I can't find anything about this case online. Even this clipping, I can't find anything about it. The thing is, if he failed in his attempt, I think that would have been splashed across everywhere. Yeah? Man tries to pay off an mortgage or a promissory note and gets put in jail or whatever. Yeah? But no, there's nothing about it. So I think he was successful. Yeah? That's just me saying that. So, just the final thing, right? You're all under arrest. All of you. Because you're all criminals. Because, I don't know if you noticed my notice. Right. Notice. By sitting in this room, you agreed to the following conditions. It is an offence to say the word banana under any circumstance. It is an offence to stand on one leg. And you know what? I'm pretty sure I saw people standing on one leg, and I heard a lot of you saying the word banana. I'm pretty sure of that. So, okay. Let's see if I can get some of you. Okay. Now I need some volunteers. So can you three stand up?
I don't understand.
No, I need. I need some volunteers so no, all three of you. You might. Could you stand over here? So we can see. Can everyone see? Yeah. Okay. You're all under arrest for taking my orders and following my orders. Come sit down, please. That's how easy it was. They followed my orders. So simple. Sorry. You nearly got out of it. You nearly. Okay. Hello, sir. How are you today?
Sorry, I didn't mean it, officer.
How are you today? Oh, thank you for answering my question. Easy. Look, it might sound silly, but giving an inch, they'll take a mile. Yeah? If you answer one of their questions, you're going to be answering their questions all night. Yeah? If you give them any authority, they've taken your authority and they're going to use it. Okay. Hello, sir. How are you today?
You're on your own.
Yes, I am, but I'm just asking how you are today, sir. Are you not talking to me? You already talked to me, so you might as well carry on. Okay, so you're not gonna talk to me then.
Rice versus Colony, 90s.
Okay. Well done. You see how he did? Stand up, mate. No, well done. Well done, mate. Gotcha. Look, they're going to trick you. Right? They're masters at tricking you. Yeah. So don't follow any of their commands at all.
Do a citizen's arrest.
Oh right.
Impersonating a police officer.
You could actually. Now, if you've seen anybody do something, don't do the same thing. Just make it interesting. Yeah. So, hello, sir. Oh, actually, could you do something a bit different for me? Right, just to make you comfortable, I'm going to take my stuff off, so I'm not the police officer. Right, now could you stand up? I'm just going to do a bit of an interaction here.
No, I'm having something to eat, thank you very much.
Oh, okay. Oh, look, I'm taking it off, right? I'm just asking.
I'm very glad for you.
Do as you told, Kenny.
Yeah, do as you told. Be a good little man. Do as you're told. Okay, I'll let. But all I'm doing is I'm trying to demonstrate a particular thing here. I'm not a police constable right now. I just want you to help me out, if you don't mind.
Am I obliged to help you?
You're not obliged. I'm just asking you right now, just to stand up and help me out with this little demonstration. Okay, if you don't want to do it, I'll ask somebody else. Is somebody else? Would you like to help me? Oh.
No,
Look, I've taken my helmet off. You're under arrest again. I'm a plainclothes copper at this moment. Okay, look, I'm not going to get around to all of you, but the point is, can you see how easy it is to give away your authority?
No, that would be kind.
I know, but in this situation, we can't afford to be kind to them.
Not to a cop.
Yeah? No, this is the point. They'll trick you in any way, and most of the time they'll get you to drop your guard, and then they'll pounce on you.
Relax to you for a minute.
Right, so just bear that in mind, because the masters are doing this.
Is that where the phrase comes, drop them? Drop them.
No, thank God. No, I think that's your phrase. So here's the thing. This is where most people live. Yeah, Disneyland. Yeah. The world is not like this. Yeah, this is a carefully constructed illusion that we all think is real. Okay. So what's real is on this side. Yeah, laws, rights, and men and women, freedom. Right, and what we're living in is this clown world, Disney world. You know, and it's all this fake stuff. We're not free. We're free range. Yeah. Now, this is how they've got us, and this is startling. You watch this.
Training fleas requires a glass jar with a lid. The fleas are placed inside the jar, and the lid is then sealed. They are left undisturbed for 3 days. Then, when the jar is opened, the fleas will not jump out. In fact, the fleas will never jump higher than the level set by the lid.
Watch this.
Their behaviour is now set for the rest of their lives.
There's no jar.
And when these fleas reproduce, their offspring will automatically follow their example.
That's how they've trained us. Yeah? They've trained us to live within this system, and there's no way out of it. We can't see a way out of it, even though there's nothing real holding us there. Yeah, it's like this. Yeah, we've been trained, just like this horse. This horse was trained that it can't move when it's tied to something. And yeah, at first it was tied to something solid, and it couldn't move. And now it's so conditioned that it can tie to a plastic chair and it will not move. Yeah, it's the same thing. You know, we are sovereign beings, one step below the Creator. Yeah, we've forgotten that. We've forgotten, and we believe our servants are our masters now. Yeah, but live beyond the limits of the imaginary child. That's all. So we've got to remember who you are. Thank you very much. Sorry, I went a bit over. Oh, I see that. I apologise.
Appreciate it.
Doctor Productions. Come along.
Yeah.